You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. Steelers Nation Radio.
But it was a nice bye week. Great weather here in Western Pennsylvania, and a happy Steelers fan base as the team sits at 3-1. And Matt, I don't think you can say the same about the rest of the AFC North.
That's the topic of the day for the Steelers.
It has to be.
Yeah.
You are sitting pretty as pretty could be at this point for the first week in October.
For the first week in October. And we should probably talk about each team. And obviously we're going to talk about the Browns a lot all week. So I don't want to look over them.
You want to start there? And
yeah, because I think they're the best of the three right now.
Ooh.
I mean, I'm not trying to be spicy, but I mean, like, who would you rather play against right now? I think the Browns are my last choice.
When you frame it that way, I think that's absolutely a fair statement to
make. I actually
because
think they're doing some encouraging things. Like, there's a little bit of optimism there, especially when compared to preseason expectations for all three teams.
Which is a big key part of this.
Of course.
But I don't think that that's an insane statement by you. In fact, now that I've had about 30 seconds to think it over, I think you might be right. I would certainly rather play the Bengals this weekend than the Browns.
I might rather play the Bengals than anybody in the league. I mean, they're getting to that point. I mean, the Ravens and Bengals look like they don't care, at least on Sunday.
Until Lamar's back, especially, you wouldn't fear that Ravens team right now in the absence of him, plus all the other injuries that they have. I think that's a completely fair statement. The Browns' defense is legit.
It's probably the best unit in the division.
And nasty.
Of the eight offenses and defense, it's the best one to me. The offense is near the bottom. Well, those other two teams are bad at everything.
Terrible.
Right now. They're so bad at everything right now.
But they have a legit defense, and they have a legit running back now, and Quinshon Judkins as well, too.
I'm really shocked by him. Right.
I mean,
not shocked, but I'm impressed.
Because it's not the same. I don't think Cleveland's offensive line is a disaster, but it's not the strength that it was when Nick Chubb was running behind to great success. You know,
right.
I think
he's getting a lot on his own and schemed up, and well, again, we'll talk so much Browns, but I really dug into them today. Almost all of his passes went to tight ends. You know, I mean, they're very quarterback-friendly scheme. But Judkins is the motor. I mean, he's the engine. Their left tackle situation's a disaster. But the other four are okay, you know, and the offense is bad, don't get me wrong. But that defense should keep them in a lot of games, like it did against Minnesota.
And they're well-coached.
They are well-coached, yeah.
That defense has kept them in every game. It's a big reason why they beat they beat the Green Bay Packers a couple weeks ago. And again, even though that their record is not great and they've lost plenty of games, it's not like they're getting boat raced in those games. They're not getting embarrassed. They're all low-scoring tight games.
Yeah.
I do think that's fair to say that if you could pick any team to come to Acrisure Stadium this weekend, it'd be the Bengals and the Ravens ahead of the Browns.
100%. Now, I'm not accounting for the fatigue of coming from overseas without a bye. I'm just talking about how you're playing right this minute. You know, I mean, like, who would I rather play this yesterday? You know, wherever. And the Browns would be my last choice of the three, and which is amazing to say. So, big picture Brown stuff, they've played the most rookie snaps of any team in the league, which probably shouldn't shock anybody. And that was even before this past weekend.
Before they went to Gabriel.
And now it's even stronger with Gabriel. I mean, the quarterback played every snap. And I thought he was fine. I mean, he didn't have a big stat line, but he got the ball out of his hands. He didn't look overwhelmed. It's not an easy defense to play against. So he was fine. And I keep going back to the draft class. You mentioned Judkins. I mean, he looks like a potential star. Yeah. Fannon's been really, really good. Schlesinger, the off-the-ball linebacker, really good. And I've said this many times. I destroyed their draft just because of the process. I mean, when it happened, I'm like,
didn't take any offensive
linemen.
You're building a nest.
Right.
How are you not going to take any offensive linemen?
Right. But the players they took, most look like hits, if not all. So at least there's something to get encouraged about if you're the Browns. Like, they haven't had a good draft forever because of the Watson trade and all those things.
Picks for years.
Yeah. Right. So at least that's something.
It certainly is. And in the scope of expectations, the way you laid it out like that, they definitely should be feeling better than the fan bases in Cincinnati and in Baltimore. Speaking of Dylan Gabriel, real quick, I want to throw this out for you. You want to hear a crazy stat?
I have one for you, too. It might even be the same.
Has nothing to do with the AFC North or the NFL, but every Oklahoma starting quarterback
I did hear that.
From 2015 to 2023, 9-year sample size, started in the NFL this past weekend.
That is insane.
Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams, Dylan Gabriel. 7 straight Oklahoma quarterbacks.
Good
all
for
starting in
Oklahoma,
the
although they
NFL.
didn't keep them all. But yeah,
right.
that
but
is
at some
pretty awesome.
point, they were the starter for Oklahoma in that stretch. That is unbelievable. But yeah, Matt, that's I
How
think
about my
that's
stat?
fair.
This one's crazy too. I may even threw it out there Friday, but Dillon Gabriel became the 10th starting quarterback for the Browns since Baker Mayfield.
Whew.
10 since Baker Mayfield. That didn't
It's
seem
not
like that long ago.
No, it was what was it 2018 that he was drafted, I want to say?
Yeah, I mean, then they got away from him right at the Watson trade.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's been 10 since they moved on from Baker, who's now lighting it up and in the MVP conversation, oh, by the way. And then somebody wrote me back after it, and they went back and checked the Packers. Mm-hmm. The 10th most recent starting quarterback for the Packers was
this is probably good.
Don Majkowski, who was like, I was like 10 years old, the Magic Man. I mean, that's who Favre took over for. This was like when I was
incredible.
A kid.
That's
you know,
incredible.
like that's insane.
That's a really good stat.
Right.
That is insane. And hey, might even get to 11 for Cleveland.
Maybe Shador
these
gets
go
in
to
there.
11 if we see Shador at some point this season. But yeah, no, I think that's an astute line of logic by you that is probably the AFC North, and not an incredibly high bar to clear, but that is probably the AFC North team that you would least like to see this weekend. Albeit
they're playing better than the other two teams.
Albeit the caveat of how do they respond coming back from London and have to go on the road once again, which is certainly going to be tough.
So now I think about it, I think their defense is the best of the 8 units, and this next 2 are Steelers. That's how bad the other teams are right now.
Almost just by process of elimination.
And it's not like the Steelers' offense and defense are top 5 in the league. I mean, that's how bad the division is right now.
Terrible on both sides of the ball. Baltimore's terrible on both sides of the ball.
Horrendous.
So that at least puts you in the top half.
Right.
The toughest question is probably what's the 4th best unit in the league.
I guess the Browns' offense, but it's probably really bad too.
That's a tough place to be.
That's really bad.
Let's talk a little bit.
I got one more Brown stat.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Not so great.
We got nothing but time.
Yeah, Mike Sando put this out on his weekly column. Friend of mine. He said that since hiring Jim Schwartz, their defensive coordinator, 2023.
Okay.
EPA, they're number 1 on defense since Schwartz has been there. That goes back to 2023, 24, and into this season.
He's a very good D coordinator.
Yes, and Garrett helps, and they have good players. Last in offense, though. Since hiring Schwartz, they're last in offensive EPA, but first in defensive EPA.
I know I'm not the first person to say this, especially in Cleveland. But, man, if they would have just kept Baker Mayfield the way he's
They might
playing,
have ruined them, but at least
a good point.
You didn't give up everything for Watson. And I mean, that's a catastrophic mistake.
You could have an extra first-round lineman or 2 on that team.
Yeah.
An extra, first or second round, like, bona fide superstar skill position guy.
Right.
Whew.
Oh, yeah. You talk about big mistakes.
Big mistakes.
Yeah.
Big mistakes. But looks like they're, starting to make up for it a little bit with the way they drafted this past year. And
at least they have picks.
Yeah. And
at least they're having picks for the first time.
Could have a top 10 pick and a top 20 pick in the first round come the NFL draft on the North Shore.
And maybe Gabriel or Sanders is a guy. Who knows?
Maybe.
Right.
Matt, let's talk a little bit about this Baltimore Ravens as well, too.
They're the most interesting team to discuss.
Just maybe league-wide at this point.
Yeah.
According to our buddy Jeremy Fowler, formerly of this parish, now nationally with ESPN, the Ravens have allowed 177 points this season. That's the most over a 5-game stretch in the entire franchise history of the Baltimore Ravens.
Doesn't surprise me. So
unbelievable.
This might be 2 segments just talking Ravens because there's a lot to discuss here. So I don't know that I've seen an injury list like the one they played with yesterday.
It's bad.
I mean,
there is a grain of salt there for.
Oh, it's a boulder of salt. I mean, it's
like rock salt.
One of them's a 2-time
MVP.
One of them's a 2-time MVP. But like, if you laid out the 10 most important Ravens, there was like 8 of them that didn't play.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, so them being bad, I understand.
There's some rhyme to that reason.
Yeah, 100%. But that was a little bit too much for my liking for a team that still has Henry and Pride.
I mean, they just rolled over and
they got killed from the first drive. I mean, on both sides of the ball.
The stadium shots of M&T Bank in the second half, like every time they would zoom out, it looked like a spring game.
Really?
Like, I mean, there doesn't
surprise me at all.
And it looked like the baseball team that plays here on the North Shore in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in some of their games. I mean, there was maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people left in that stadium. It was empty.
Wow. And someone just actually tweeted us on the way here saying they were listening to the Ravens post-game show, and you're getting these quotes, which I'm sure Steeler fans they have no leadership. Fire Harbaugh. They'll be 1-5 after next week.
Sure.
Harbaugh's lost team culture. They look like a defeated team. I can't argue some of those things. Their body language was really, really bad. And we lost this thing from the jump. We had none of our dudes. We got none of our leaders. And the injuries are terrible. Bad luck. No question. That's hard to overcome. And Burrow being out is bad luck too, But my problems are both lines of scrimmage were bad since the season started. You know what I mean? Matabuke's injury and the D-line's just not the same. They're getting blown off the ball. They're not pushing anybody around in the trenches on offense.
O-line's not nearly as good as it was a couple years ago.
So what's going to make those better? They were bad to start the season. Lamar's not going to make those better. Roquan coming back isn't going to make those better. I mean, those are fundamental problems. And I don't know their defensive coordinator, but if you remember last year, their defense was pretty darn bad. Blown mistakes, and then they went out and got Dean Pease, brought him out of retirement, who's kind of a defensive legend. And from that point on,
they moved Kyle Hamilton around the bye week.
They moved a lot of different stuff around, and they were the best defense in the league. Or it might just be a terrible defensive coordinator. I don't know if Pease is in the mix at all anymore, but his resume is not strong to start last year or any of this year. Now, I know he's missing 5 important players.
Well, if you think about it, since they lost the guy who's the Seattle Seahawks head coach.
Right, McDonald.
And
they took a bunch of assistants, too. I mean, they lost a ton on defense.
That defense has played 20-some games since then and has been average to bad in probably 15 of them.
Yeah, except for the stretch leading into the playoffs last year. And other than that, they've been bad. Bottom 10, if not worse. This year, they're worse in the league. So I don't know that gets drastically better. I mean, you're bad in the lines of scrimmage. You're not going to fix that overnight. And your best lineman, Matabuke, is out for the year. He's not a 2-week stretch, whatever. So that being said, I can't write any – we haven't talked about the Bengals. I can't write any story where either Cleveland team ends up in the playoffs.
Either Ohio team.
Right. Exactly.
No doubt.
100%.
No doubt.
I'm not so sure about the Ravens.
They're still the odds-on AFC North betting favorites right now.
You said that.
Which is crazy.
I think that's nuts.
Slightly over the Steelers. It's not much of a gap.
I understood it a week ago, kind of, because there's 2 one-win teams. Maybe they could beat the Texans, and I didn't realize how injured Baltimore was.
And their schedule was front-loaded. I mean,
I wanted to talk about their schedule.
Had to play Buffalo, had to play Detroit.
They played a brutal stretch.
Yeah.
Basically all playoff teams, give or take.
Yeah, that first-place schedule, and it was a lot of those first-place teams in the start, the first 5-6 weeks of the season.
And they easily could have won the Buffalo game that everyone on the planet watched. But schedule-wise, they play the Rams this week. Coming off a long week that played Thursday, that lost a tough team. I mean, I think it's in L.A.
It's in L.A., I'm pretty sure, yeah.
So if we chalk that up to a loss, minus Lamar, I mean, the math might just be too bad to come back from.
They'd be more likely to get a top 10 pick at that point than they would be to make the playoffs.
Probably. But if I'm the Ravens, again, Ravens Nation Radio, you lose the Rams. Maybe it's as ugly as this Texans game. Then you have a bye. Thank the Lord. You know what I mean? Need it so bad.
Ooh.
And then you look at the rest of their schedule. It's pretty darn easy.
They could rattle off 7 or 8 straight wins.
Yeah. They could be the team you don't want to face going into the playoffs that won 7 of their last 8. But that might not even get you in.
But I was going to say, that would shock me less than them fighting back and clawing back and potentially getting into a wild card.
Yeah.
Would shock me a lot less than them winning the division.
Steelers would have to fall.
I mean,
if you win the division, it would be because the Steelers have a tough December.
Lost 3 or 4 games in a row at some point.
If this season ended like last season.
Yes.
And the Steelers' schedule's backloaded in a bad way.
It is.
I mean,
it is. It's not quite as brutal as last year, but it's still tough.
I'm not ready to write that story.
You have to go to Detroit.
But, man,
you got to
what
play
a
Buffalo
gift.
Thanksgiving weekend.
But I bet they split, Ravens Steelers. Do you think the Ravens are going to sweep them? I mean, they almost have to.
They would almost have to. If you're the Steelers and you go 5-1 in the division, I think you're guaranteed to win the AFC North. You go 4-2, and you've still got a really good chance to win the AFC North.
And both teams get to play the Bengals twice still.
Yes,
which is
wonderful.
Helps.
Which
is wonderful. Yeah.
But man, if the Steelers sweep Ohio over the next 10 or 11 days, whatever it would be here, 12 days, however many. At 5-1, it would almost.
You would have to implode.
You would have to implode to not win the division.
Especially if the Ravens are 1-5.
Especially if they go to LA and lose. I mean,
which they have to be a huge dog there. Assuming it's a similar roster they're putting out than what they did.
Right, and it certainly sounds like Lamar's not going to play, and that's got to be the biggest thing for them.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us saw this coming, and you kind of mentioned some of that too, like the body language stuff with Baltimore. This to me is like it's always tough for a team, I think, especially in football where the sample size is so small and you don't have an opportunity to start slow or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some Texas and Penn State vibes about Baltimore right now, and here's what I mean by that.
I think I have a hunch. Yeah.
Baltimore was, without a doubt, even if you are black and gold diehard, you hate the Baltimore Ravens like you need air to breathe.
Yeah.
You had to have them on your short list of Super Bowl favorites coming into this year.
I put them number 1 in my preseason power
Philly,
ranks. And
Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City. I mean, those were the teams.
Yeah.
Some people had Detroit and Green Bay there as the fifth, but those were the teams.
After the Parsons trade, yeah.
Texas and Penn State, 1 and 2 in the AP poll to start the season. When your expectations are that high, all 3 of those programs and organizations too, they've had fan bases that have been longing for it and begging for it, and we've been close but no cigar for a long time now, and look how loaded we are, and this is finally the year that we're going to get over the hump and get it done. You had Penn State won playoff games last year. Mm-hmm. They were in the semifinal. Texas won playoff games last year. They were in the semifinal. Baltimore has been winning some playoff games.
But they're not Ohio State.
But they're not Ohio State. They're not Kansas City.
Right.
This is the year that we have to be, though. This is our year. This is our time. We got the roster. It's all coming together at the right time.
Like they said this about the Manning Colts for a long time, until you didn't.
Exactly right.
Sometimes you never do.
Exactly right. But when you have such high expectations and such a feeling of this has to be the year, and then it starts out the way that it has for those teams, I think there's a natural human element of like, hang your head and this sucks and like this is a major letdown. I mean, Texas and Penn State were 1 and 2 in the AP poll, Matt. It's the first week in October. They haven't even beaten a Power 4 team, either of them.
And then Penn State gets embarrassed in UCLA.
Their only wins are over G5 schools and FCS programs. You know, Akron and Sam Houston State and Villanova.
And they were a top 2 team.
And they were and now they're both unranked. Wow. In early October, they're both unranked. There's some of that.
And both those programs have a history, too. It's not like
absolutely
this happened to Georgia or Bama.
And again, they much like Baltimore, they haven't been Kansas City. They haven't been Bama or Georgia or Ohio State, but they've been really good for the last handful.
Phenomenal.
They've been very good for the last handful.
Again, and DVOA, they're like number 1 every year.
Penn State and Texas were both in the college football playoff semifinal last year. Yeah. Like they won playoff games last year. But when your expectations are so high and it sinks so fast, to me, like it's almost impossible to prevent that unraveling of heads hanging. We're kind of quitting on this thing. Here we go. This is a disaster.
Especially when the Texans just first drive just walk right down the field. You know, you think
and when you've got Baltimore's injury report too,
right? Like now, who do we turn to in the huddle? There's nobody I trust. Stanley's out too. I mean, everybody's out. So I did a podcast actually during like the downtime of summer, saying, kind of comparing the Steelers and Ravens in that. Steeler fans at this point had never seen Aaron Rodgers play. We knew the narrative. You know, Steelers are a middling team. Yeah, they got this winning record, but when have you won a playoff game? We're sick of the same thing year after year. Everyone's heard these things. You know, Tomlin's only going to get us so far, blah, 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 blah. And my podcast was, your biggest rival, the Ravens, have had more or less the best quarterback in the league over the last 5 years, and you've had the worst. And they've been better during that stretch. Anyone wants to argue with that, they're insane. Even I know the head-to-head.
No doubt.
You know,
that's the only thing that you would have in your black and gold quiver would be head-to-head.
But who's the better football team during the Lamar
season wins, more playoff wins?
Right.
Yeah.
And they got better players. During the Lamar era, they've been the better team. I mean, clearly. But I really equated the two organizations of kind of being the same in that the fan bases are really
not good enough.
It's still frustrating because the Steelers are at this tier of over that 5 years or whatever of got in the playoffs, got beat really bad, went home. Ravens are on the tier right above.
Like won a game, but then
right.
Yeah.
Awesome regular season, high expectations, might have beat a team like the Steelers or a wild card team, and then can't go any further. Because year after year after year. And the fan base immediately will say, fire Harbaugh, fire Tomlin, And I kind of get it, like, can this guy only take us so far? But in this case, for Baltimore, I'm really talking about here.
Yeah, it feels like such an outlier.
Right. I mean, they're in such an awful situation. Maybe make a defensive coordinator change. I mean, I'm not saying you blow the thing up. They're still dangerous as could be.
If they had one or two guys on IR and these were still the results, then it doesn't make as much sense.
Right.
I think you could have Vince Lombardi dipped in Bill Belichick, and they would still be under 500 in Baltimore.
I guess my point that I didn't express as well as I wanted was everyone is so Steelers-centric around here, and you look at the Ravens, they're so much better. But your brothers, from another mother over there, are almost as frustrated as you guys as a fan base, And right this minute, they're right this second more so. I'm talking about like in the offseason, like there's a lot going on, and winning playoff games is really difficult. There's only 13 wins every year of playoff wins. You don't get many of them. So I don't know. I mean, the Ravens, to me at least, could get their doors blown off against the Rams,
sure.
Come back and look like the Ravens. But the lines of scrimmage aren't good, and they're not even using like Derrick Henry.
It's you get Lamar and Roquan back, and that will obviously help. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
But like that might be like slapping a Band-Aid on a shotgun wound at this point.
Yeah, right.
They've got so many issues.
And then there's just the math of it. Like, can you win enough games to actually beat a wild card team like Denver or Indy or Houston that you lost head-to-head to, or Steelers or whoever? I mean, winning division might be their only shot.
That's the key word. Better than the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, let's just kind of buzz. All these conversations, you'll notice, I just go division by division.
Yeah.
So starting the East, the Bills are a yes.
Yes, I think so.
And they stumbled. They made more mistakes than usual.
Defense isn't great.
I don't love the defense.
Still, I
but
think they're very good.
They have Josh Allen and an awesome offense. They're better than the Steelers. I'm not going to give you the Patriots, but they're out kicking my expectations for them for sure. Even before last night, but last night was really good, and I'm a Drake May fan.
Stephon Diggs, nice to see you.
Oh, that was huge. But I brought this up while I was getting coffee, too, because I knew their upcoming schedule was really easy. How about this? They play the Saints next week, then the Titans, then the Browns, and then the Jets, I think. My friend went screwy. But
that should be 3 or 4 wins.
I mean, yeah, they could absolutely go on a hot streak. That doesn't mean that they're better than the Steelers, but they could gain a lot of momentum, like in power ranks and that type of thing. That don't really matter, but nobody
Jets,
else in the East.
Dolphins, no.
No. Nobody in the North.
Nobody in the division.
Right.
Nope.
Ravens are highly capable. We've talked to no end of getting back to where they are, but they're far from it now. Colts, yes. It's hard to argue. I mean,
it's their result. I mean,
they're real close to being undefeated.
I mean, like other than the Broncos, I mean, they're like beating everybody down.
Yeah, and smashing teams.
Smashing. It's incredible.
They really are. So I'm going to say yes on the Colts.
That's 2.
Jacksonville, we can talk about tomorrow.
Okay.
I think they have a chance to be. I'm impressed with where they're at, but I would definitely lean towards no right this minute.
Like we're saying definitively.
Right.
Like they would be favored over the Steelers on a neutral field.
Yeah.
By
I'm going to say no.
At least a field goal.
I'm going to say no. But they could surprise us tonight, and I think that they're trending the right direction as an organization.
I'm excited for that Monday Night Football game.
Yeah,
we'll talk
too.
about that for a minute
too.
before we get out of here.
I can't go Houston, but I think they've turned a corner.
I do too.
I mean, they're definitely how I was thinking about it today on my podcast was, boy, there's a lot of AFC teams, including the Steelers, that are all in this tier that aren't quite Bills, Ravens where we thought they were, but they're pretty impressive, and I'm pretty firm that they're good teams.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
There's not the juggernaut, but there's a lot of good teams.
Yeah, and a lot of these teams I'm starting to trust, like the Colts, maybe the Jags. I'm not sure yet. Starting to trust Houston. That they're going to be in the mix.
That defense is legit.
And I've always been a Stroud fan. I think they're going to be in the mix.
Their defense has given up like 20 points less than the next lowest scoring defense in the NFL.
Really?
It's crazy.
Okay. Definitely not Tennessee, obviously.
No.
So there's 3 contenders in that division. Colts, I would say, are the strongest. I think the Chiefs are better than Steelers.
I think you got to give them some benefit of the doubt. I know they started 0-2, but they've rebounded nicely.
Yeah.
Tonight will be a big tell, though.
I mean, if they get blown out tonight, maybe I'll change my tune, but I don't foresee that happening.
Like last week, we would have probably said the Chargers. I don't know about now.
They're a no to me.
Yeah.
I think everything, and I feel bad for them in a way. Like it's just injury, and Herbert's getting crushed. So they're a no, where I would have said yes 2 weeks ago for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Then the alt injury, and then, I mean, Herbert's under pressure every drop back.
Najee's done. Omari and Hampton's banged up.
Yeah, I'd say something happened to him late in the game. Defense was not impressive. So they're a no to me. Denver's a definitive yes. And the Raiders are one of the most miserable teams in the league, too.
Good Lord.
I mean, I didn't think they'd be this bad.
I think they might be the most surprising team.
Well, them being as terrible as they
them and the Colts are probably the 2 most surprising teams in the NFL this year for opposite reasons.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think many people were picking the Raiders to go to the playoffs, but I don't think a lot of people thought they'd be 1-4 and it would look like this.
Yes. So I would say there's 3 or 4 that are definitively better than
That's
the Steelers.
about it.
Right.
You count them on one hand.
Yeah. What do we do? Colts, Chiefs, Broncos, Bills.
I think that's a fair
Yeah.
list.
And I think the Steelers are ahead of the Patriots and Jags, but I'm open to the idea that they're improving. Houston's not a sleeping giant, but they're a sleeping big person.
Danger.
Yeah,
They're a sleeping big person.
Big scary dude, but not quite a giant. And I think the Chargers season could be spiraling quickly.
Yeah.
You know, this could be the beginning of the end.
And this is another one of those, I know you and I repeated this ad nauseum the first couple weeks of the season, but like, you don't want to be the best team in September.
No, right.
You know?
That's lovely and it's fun to talk about at the time.
It's great.
But, right.
And the Chargers were flying as high as possible after the first 3 weeks of the season. 3-0, all 3 of those division wins.
Herbert for MVP.
Herbert for MVP. Even you and I were saying like he might be entering that unicorn territory with some of the other guys. I still think he is.
It's just nobody's helping him anymore.
You lose both of your tackles. You lose both of your running backs. Your defense is okay.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you go from 3-0 and on top of the world to back down to earth and 3-2.
They seem to lose an offensive lineman every week, and that's just I can't speak enough about offensive linemen.
It's a tough way to live in this league, particularly where I know you do a good job of outlining this a lot, but like everybody in the league needs offensive line help. Even the teams with the best offensive lines would like an extra piece or two. You lose 2 of the top 10, top 12 tackles in the NFL. That's going to be almost impossible to overcome.
Like the Cardinals could use a running back. Well, they could get one. The Chargers need a tackle. You can't get one. You're not going to get one.
Cardinals could use a running back that holds onto the ball into the end zone.
That was an unbelievable game. Right.
That touchdown for Tennessee off the interception for Cam, that's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life.
There were 3 or 4 plays in that one. I mean, there was even a snap that Kyler didn't know was coming that hit him in the face mask that almost knocked him over. Like, this is just like Laurel and Hardy or something. I mean, this was the Stooges.
That game belonged on the, you know how every once in a while they do like the Nickelodeon broadcast?
Yeah, right. Which were getting slimed or whatever.
Nickelodeon.
That's about, you're right. That was
people
hideous.
Getting slimed and SpongeBob popping out of the turf or something like that.
And that's how the Titans get their first win.
That is how the Titans get their first win. I tell you what, though, Cam Ward continues to look like a guy who...
I'm real impressed.
He might be long for this league. He certainly could be.
Yep.
Joining us now to discuss all of this and more, it's our friend. He's the host of In the Locker Room here on the Steelers Audio Network with Max Starks. He is, of course, also the play-by-play voice of your Pittsburgh Steelers on the flagship WDVE, the great Rob King. Kinger, I didn't think that we would all be feeling even better about the Steelers after a bye week, after they didn't play a game. But, man, it's hard not to when you're just kind of in the scope of everything that has happened to the other teams in the AFC North through the first month or so of the season, but especially yesterday.
Yeah, I think that, I said this on DV this morning. This is like every guy's dream, right? Do nothing and get better. It's fantastic, right? I mean, this, you had a bye and everybody in your division lost, and everybody in your division looks lost right now. Now, I don't know whether that's going to continue. The Ravens will get healthier. I don't know what to make of the Bengals. And the Browns, I think the Browns are one of those teams that, you better play good football, as Green Bay found out, or they can beat you. They probably They probably shouldn't have won the Green Bay game. They should probably be 2-3 right now. But regardless, with all those teams losing, you're in just much better shape coming out of the bye than you were even going into the bye. And you're in good shape going into the bye.
Yeah, Rob, we started the show really talking around the league, and I think I startled Wes by saying it in this light, but of those three teams, I think the Browns is the one I would least want to face right this second.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that at all, Matt. I think that, Jake Browning has been he has to be considered a disappointment. I think they thought he was at least, a gatekeeper type of quarterback, keep you in it and keep your head above water. And he might still be, but 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions doesn't look good. Their defense, they keep drafting guys and not apparently getting much better on defense. They've got a lot of first-round picks and second-round picks and recent vintage on that D. It's not doing the job. The Browns, I think, look, a couple weeks from now when the Ravens are healthy, no, you don't want to play them. But
sure.
You're right. Right now, they're a team that I think, maybe gained a little bit more identity offensively against Minnesota. They've got a good defense. They probably got a little too conservative toward the end of that game. Instead of trying to finish it off, they left it up to their defense. That's become increasingly difficult in the NFL to do and expect a shutdown. And they didn't get a shutdown. But, Judkins now,
he's impressive.
Interior. What's that?
He's impressive.
He's impressive.
Yeah.
And that interior offensive line, those guys are good, man. I mean, that set of tackles or that set of guards, they're good. And Conklin's still good. Now, left tackle is an issue, and Cam Robinson didn't play well, and I think got benched in the middle of the game.
They kept rotating because neither could do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and Robinson, look, he's hopefully they're hoping he can come in and at least be serviceable. I mean, another week under his belt, and he'll be better. He's been a solid enough type of player throughout his career. But if they get an identity with Judkins, they bring Hutchinson, the defensive lineman, in on short yardage situations. Maybe they'll just take a page out of the Jets playbook and try to bludgeon the Steelers. I think, and they've got a good defense and they've got a good running back. That's where they stand right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Cincinnati or Baltimore can say they've got good anything right now.
That's miserable.
No doubt. And sticking with that, Matt, another thing that he said to me in the first segment that was kind of eye-opening, but I think correct, is you could very easily say of the 8 offenses and defenses in the AFC North, that Browns defense is the best single unit in the division right now. Mm-hmm. Kinger, I mean, you were studying Cleveland when we were on our flight home from Dublin. I mean, you're a very professional, very prepared guy. I was laughing at you. I was like, you're not even taking a breather for the bye week. You're getting right into the Browns.
Rob and I were comparing notes this morning
on the flight home from Dublin, baby. That Browns defense certainly, and I think this kind of plays into of all the teams in the division. Albeit they're coming back from London and going back on the road, which is certainly a big caveat to this one. But that Browns defense is pretty stingy, pretty stinking good right now. What have you noticed about that unit?
Well, and they're doing. I think Mike Hall is a guy they're expecting. I don't know whether he's ever going to. I think he was limited in practice this week. I don't know whether he'll play against the Steelers. He's a guy that I think, Matt knows way more about the draft than I do, and way more about the draft than anybody I know. I don't know if the off the field issues caused him to be a second round. I don't know if he was considered a first round talent, Matt. But you have Graham next to him. Malik Collins has been fantastic.
He's been great, yeah.
Kind of a rotating group on the other side at defensive end. Look, they had a good draft class. Graham, for whatever his ceiling is, he's going to be a high motor guy that you feel good about plugging into that defense. Whether he'll be a superstar remains to be seen. That's what you expect out of the 5th pick. But if he can be a tone setter, Schlesinger at inside linebacker. With the JOK is another guy. They don't know whether he's ever going to play again. Schlesinger, though, he looks very good. The secondary's always been solid. So, it's a group to be reckoned with. And Matt, I don't know where Hall was supposed to go. I don't know if off-field issues out of Ohio State kept him in the second round. But if they can get him back, that gives them, they want to be rotational, but that gives them a rotation up front, but headlined by, first-round pedigree kind of guys.
Yeah, and they are deep up front, and I think people make the mistake of looking at their defensive line and being like, we all know who Myles Garrett is, and folks, he's leveled up. He's playing better than he ever has. But the rest of that group is winning a lot of one-on-one matchups, Rob, as you kind of mentioned. And they do have some depth there where they just like to keep bringing them in fresh. And Hall's perfect for that.
Yep.
He's a little undersized. It didn't help his draft stock either. But in a rotation, he's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, they're clearly, trying to do the same thing the Steelers have tried to do, and that's build in the trenches, and build your best players, Myles Garrett, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
And so what can you do to help make him shine the most? It's a good philosophy. And if this draft class looks as good as it's performed early on, Fannin at the tight end position, a second-round pick, Schlesinger at linebacker, a second-round pick, Graham on the defensive line, Judkins, a second-round pick. Did I already say him? No, it was Fannin a third round. I think Fannin was a third-round pick.
Fannin was a third,
2 seconds, a first. You got another first-round pick coming up next year. I mean, for all of the, for the way the mistakes at the quarterback position have set the Browns back, and they have. What you had to give up to get Watson, the fact that you had Baker right there and could have used those picks to build around him and maybe been in a completely different position now. It's spilled milk. They have to move on. And, yeah, they got worked in a couple games this year for sure. But I still see a team that if you don't come to play and if they don't have your attention, you could be in some trouble.
Rob, use this on the air, and I said it to you this morning, but it blows me away that Gabriel was their 10th starting quarterback since Baker Mayfield. I mean, that's not even the jersey that starts with Tim Couch. I mean, we're just talking about since Baker Mayfield, he's the 10th starter.
Yeah, and, and again, I've said this a couple times, but to me, when we talk about how valuable the quarterback position is, the Ravens are 0-5 in the last 5 games without Lamar. They're 4-10 overall in the games he hasn't been able to start. Look at the Bengals without Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the Browns without a quarterback. And we've mentioned some of the positives that they've had. They've had some good players even on offense, and what they've really had is a good offensive line. You start with a good defense and a good offensive line. Your expectation should be to win some games. The Steelers have won games in the post-Ben Roethlisberger era without that elite level quarterback, and we are seeing in the division what that has cost the Bengals, what that has cost in part the Ravens have other injuries. I understand that, and what it has cost the Browns. So to me, yes, I think that we'll see on Gabriel again. You know more about him than I do, Matt. It seemed like the biggest knock on him was his size, and he's doesn't have the prototypical size to be in the first round, but has some of the other skills. And I think people probably said the same thing about Baker to some degree, although I think Baker's, Gabriel's got a ways to go before he gets there. But they're at the very least an intriguing team, maybe heading in the right direction, maybe getting that stability that has been lacking at the quarterback position. I don't know if Gabriel will be that guy, but if he is, boy, what a shortcut that is to becoming a better team.
Rob King with us here on The Drive, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Rob, we spent probably 15 minutes in the first hour just talking about the Ravens and the laundry list of injuries and the 1-4 start for Baltimore. Despite all that, they are still, according to Vegas, the slight favorites, very slight, but still slight favorites over the Steelers to win the AFC North. Do you see any, like Matt and I were talking, hey, it wouldn't surprise us if Baltimore, they got to play the Rams next week, which is tough. They could easily be 1-5, but then they get to their bye week. And I don't think it would shock any of us if they got a little bit healthier and, rattled off 5 or 6 straight wins, something like that, and got back into a wild card, fight, a wild card scrap. But do you see any scenario where they could, out of the grave and get back into a division contending position?
Yeah, sure. So you have the Rams and you have the Bears, right? Let's say you split before, and by the way, 5 of their first 7 games leading into the bye week are at home, so that doesn't help them either. But let's say you split those 2 games, so you go into the bye 2-5. Well, then you're at Miami, at Minnesota, at Cleveland, against the Jets, against the Bengals. Could I see them going 5-0 there and be 7-5? Sure, I could. And they haven't played the Steelers yet. So could I see them getting back into contention? Yes, but I've said all along, I think the Steelers were a 10-7 team a year ago, and I think they've gotten better almost at every position, almost across the board. They're a better team, including at the quarterback position with Aaron Rodgers, which is, as we know, we've been talking a little bit about that. It's the most important position in sports. So if you're better across the board, I think they're better than a 10-7 team. So that tells me. So I think that people are still working under the assumption, and they might be right, and I might be wrong, but I think they're still working under the assumption that the Steelers are not that good of a team. I think they're a better team than people think, and therefore I think it's going to be very, very difficult for the Ravens to catch them. Not because I don't think the Ravens can turn things around, but because I don't think the Steelers are going to falter. And I think that's probably where my difference of opinion comes with others. I've thought all along, I said it at the beginning of the season, I think it's a better team. But we'll see, because I don't seem to be in a vast majority of people who think that, certainly among the national media.
Yeah, you're right. For the Ravens to get back in the division, the Steelers would have to have some down times, for sure.
Right. And we'll see in the next 2 weeks, right, guys? I mean,
yeah.
These are division games, right? So, that'll tell some of the tale for sure.
Hey, big difference between 5-1 and maybe 4-2 even at this point.
Right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So, Rob, I don't know if it'll keep up to the level we saw in Dublin, but do you think the Spencer Anderson next to Washington, a high percentage of snaps, is something that's here to stay?
Corned beef package.
The corned beef package.
So a couple things. One is that, Andy Weidel, before the preseason game last year, he's given a press conference the last couple of years in the preseason. And he said, we want to be a big physical team because big physical teams, that travels, that plays anywhere. Mm-hmm. I don't care if it's hot or cold. If it's cold and windy, the Dolphins, I use them as an example, though they're certainly faltering now, but the Dolphins, if say 2 years ago, they're not going to perform well in that kind of condition, right? They're not built that way. But the Steelers can go down there in the heat and still pound it at you. It's a good style of play in any weather, in any conditions. It is the best style of play for as far as being versatile in any kind of condition. So do I think they will do that? Yes, I think it's here to stay, but I also think that they are, when you have Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be a matchup-driven approach week to week. So that's what they thought would work that week, and it did. It ran all over the Vikings. A couple weeks before that, Atlanta had run all over the Vikings. Maybe they said, okay, that's a team that we can run on. Maybe in another week you say, listen, let's go a little more Aaron Rodgers. It's why, other than, knock on wood, any kind of injury happening to DK Metcalf, I think it's a better receiving core with a better quarterback and better equipped to handle, to be able to throw the ball on teams without that quote unquote prototypical number 2 receiver. I think they can mix and match enough that they'll find the mismatch somewhere, and Aaron Rodgers is going to help you find it out on the field. They can game plan it for you, and then when he gets out there, he's going to say, gotcha, it's Jonnu Smith time. It's Pat Freiermuth time. It might be Roman Wilson time. It's always going to be DK Metcalf time to some degree. So I think it's going to be part of what they do moving forward. I think I'd be a little surprised if they use it to that frequency week in and week out.
That'd be pretty extreme.
I just think it's going to be more matchup.
Voice of the Steelers, Rob King, kind enough to give us some of his time here on a Monday. Kinger, great stuff. Thank you for the time as always, and we'll see you this weekend.
Always a pleasure, guys. Thanks very much.
There he goes. Rob King. Great stuff from him. Pleasure's all mine. Oh, you like competing to be Chick-fil-A employees here? My pleasure. Mike Tomlin's weekly press conference in the books. Plenty to discuss from that. And, of course, as it relates to the Steelers getting ready for their first AFC North clash this weekend at home, Sunday, 1 p.m. at Acrisure against the now Joe Flacco-less Cleveland Browns. Joining us to discuss, it's our buddy from DK Pittsburgh Sports, Chris Halicke. Chris, thank you for taking the time as always, partner, and let's get right into it here. Plenty of injury updates today from Mike Tomlin. More optimistic as it relates to Joey Porter Jr., Jaylen Warren, and Alex Highsmith. Let's start with those three. You expect all of those three or any of those three? What do you I know it's still early in the week here, but predict for their status for Sunday?
I really think Porter and Warren are pretty good. I mean, Porter himself even said, I'm good to go. I would put Porter at like 95%. And then Warren maybe like a little less. I mean, he was really close to playing, and they really kind of held him out at a caution. In the Dublin game, he's had another week to rest. He was on the field for practice yesterday during their bonus day. So I would think Warren is a pretty near lock to play. Highsmith he's pretty optimistic, and I think there's plenty of reason for optimism for him to play. I don't think it's going to be full go, and I don't see the reason why you would need to with the way Nick Herbig is playing. There's no real need to rush when you're about to play 13 games straight without a break. Probably a pretty good time to let him kind of ease his way back in while Nick Herbig is playing at such a high level. So I think all three guys stand a really good chance of playing on Sunday, though to varying degrees of how much each guy will participate.
Chris, you mentioned the Monday bonus practice after the bye. How do they usually handle that? Is it a pretty intense, or is it a walkthrough tempo? Like, how do they handle that in general?
It's definitely not walkthrough.
Okay.
Even Mike Tomlin today said they really focused on like conditioning and things like that.
Makes sense.
But they tend to do a number of things. I don't think it's one thing every single time they have a bonus day. Sometimes they will kind of get to work early on the schematics. Other times they will do like Tomlin said today. They'll do more things to really put the focus on keeping conditioning up and making sure that they're in football shape getting ready for a week, especially if it's a game like Sundays will be against Cleveland. It's AFC North. It's going to be physical. I want to make sure guys are ready, like physically prepared for the game. So they do a number of different things. Sometimes they do a little bit of everything. I definitely think that schematics definitely played a role into the practice, though they won't truly dive into that until Wednesday.
So I'm curious, just along those lines, if sometimes they do a mini install, coaches have a week off, their gears start turning, we're going to throw this into the playbook. Maybe they come back and add a wrinkle,
Oh, definitely. I think it's always a time to take advantage of the extra work, and it doesn't necessarily have to be for just preparation for that opponent. But, yeah, it could be something, hey, we like what we're doing out of this personnel. Let's add another wrinkle to that. Let's add another little element to that. How can we best utilize, for example, Steelers are third in the league in 12 personnel usage. Maybe there's another way they want to use tight ends. Maybe there's another way they want to run the ball out of that personnel, whatever it is. That's another time in which they can try to work on that kind of stuff.
Chris, obviously heading into this weekend, it seems rather unlikely, not officially ruled out, but I think rather unlikely that we're going to see Calvin Austin at home against the Browns. What's that game plan kind of like this week? How do you go about trying to fill his role? Is it as simple as turning to the veteran Scotty Miller? Is it time to do some sink or swim type stuff with Roman Wilson and finally, give him a larger portion on his plate? How do you think they go about replacing Calvin Austin this week?
Well, the first thing is Mike Tomlin didn't completely rule out Calvin.
He did not, yes.
So there is a chance, albeit it's probably very unlikely, but there is a chance that he could play Sunday. I wouldn't rush him back. Again, you're about to play 13 straight games. You don't want to lose a receiver. Yeah, you have the trade deadline coming up in a few weeks, in which you could possibly, find a team that's going to be selling, to grab a receiver, but you'd still rather have Calvin Austin than not have him, whether you add another receiver down the road or not. But in terms of this week, if Calvin can't go, they're going to lean on Scotty Miller and Roman Wilson. It's not just going to be one guy. And there are a number of ways you can fill that. Yes, you can utilize the tight ends a little bit more. You can run a little bit more 12 personnel. But there are also things that Calvin Austin does that the tight ends can't do, and mainly that's speed. And the good thing is both Scotty Miller and Roman Wilson are very good runners, and they can utilize their speed quite a bit to help either stretch the defense. The Browns run a lot of single high, so maybe they can try to take some more shots downfield, and having speed is a good part of that. That could also clear some space for DK Metcalf or even some of the other guys underneath, whether it be a running back or a tight end. They're going to have to utilize both Scotty Miller. And the good thing is Scotty Miller's a trusted veteran receiver. Aaron Rodgers has good things to say about him. Tom Brady had good things to say about him when Scotty was in Tampa Bay. And then Roman Wilson, I think at some point you got to rip the Band-Aid off and kind of cut him loose and let him go, see what happens. And you'd like for that to work out because this is a pretty pivotal game. I understand the Browns are 1-4, but this is an AFC North matchup. The Steelers have a grand opportunity to get an early stranglehold on the division, and you want to win the game no matter what, but you'd really love to be able to win the game and also to get Roman Wilson involved so you can really start to see what you have there.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with this topic here because I do think Austin is a significant loss if he can't go because you said a lot of single high. They're really, really hard to run on. I would think this could be a matchup where you do take shots, if you can max protect. But my question for you is, in two receiver sets, do you think they trust Roman Wilson to be an outside player?
He's
maybe trust isn't the right word yet,
Yeah, maybe not trust, but whenever Tomlin was asked about it today, it's about like because when you look at the snap counts between like DK Metcalf and Calvin Austin, they both like significantly out-snap Roman Wilson and Scotty Miller. But the reason for that isn't necessarily because they don't trust Scotty or Roman. It's because they're using 12 personnel at the third highest rate in the league. They're using 13 personnel at the third highest rate in the league. They're using 11 personnel at the lowest rate in the league, which means they have only two receivers on the field the majority of the time, like 2/3 of the time. So you're not going to have a lot of snap counts for more than your top receivers. Now, when it comes to Roman Wilson, he's equipped to do a lot of things, even in 12 personnel. He's a good blocking receiver. Not as good as Ben Skoronix, but he's probably a better blocking receiver than Calvin Austin. But this is also a good chance for them to see what they have in him as a route runner, what kind of separation he can get, how he can be utilized in, I think, the play action. The one thing that he did really well in Michigan was being able to run those high crossers. And, those who pay attention to, Arthur Smith's background in offense, he likes to run those Shanahan play action concepts, and that involves a good amount of high crossers. Maybe Roman Wilson can be utilized that way. I don't know, but they've got, like I said, I think they got to rip the Band-Aid off at some point, and this is an opportunity for them to do it without forcing it because, if Austin's down, they need to step up, and, this is a guy who's a third-round pick. He looks pretty good in the preseason. They've got to see what they have. This almost does have to be, as Wes kind of put it, kind of sink or swim with them.
Couple more minutes here with Chris Halicke on The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio. Chris, I guess kind of similar conversation as it relates to offensive game plan for this Sunday against the Browns. I don't know if any of us had Darnell Washington pacing the Steelers' skill position players in terms of snaps on our bingo cards heading into Dublin, but that's the way it played out, and I think to pretty good success as well. Do you expect we'll see a heavy dose of Mount Washington? And with that corned beef package with Anderson as well, too, against this Browns defense. Chris,
that was something I was going to ask, too, so I just wanted to add one piece to it. But maybe they use it, I don't know what your thoughts on if they will use it or not, but I don't want to speak for you. But if they do you think it's more protection-related against Garrett as opposed to mash-your-face, run the ball against one of the best run defenses in the league?
Well, the way Mike Tomlin put it today was, you don't use 250-pound tight ends to block 4-3 defensive ends. Mm-hmm. That's the way he put it, and it makes a lot of sense. I think another way he put it was, there are weight classes in combat sports for a reason, and Darnell Washington is built big enough to be able to block some of those larger defensive ends that play in a 4-3 front. And so, Tomlin hasn't been, is the way he put it, he has been bashful about using those type of things against the 4-3. So it would not surprise me if going up against the Browns, especially when you consider the fact they do have Myles Garrett and a really strong defensive front, that, you could see more of that. And you could see more of it against the Bengals, who also use a 4-3 front. So I don't think it's every single time they face a team that runs out of a 4-3 that you're going to see 19 snaps from Spencer Anderson as a eligible receiver, while Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith play less than that. But I think when it's a game in which you're trying to, number one, run the football, and you're also trying to protect your quarterback, I think it's absolutely a way to be able to do that. I don't think that's going to be their entire offense, but I don't think that the game against Minnesota was some sort of one-off or some sort of misnomer. I really do think that it's going to be something that they use as one way to attack these defensive fronts, especially a front like Cleveland, who not only is filled with a lot of talent, but also they just load the box. They like to load the box. They want to stop the run. They're very good at stopping the run. So sometimes you got to put your bigger horses out there and, try to be the bully there, and you kind of need the bodies in order to do that.
Chris, I got one more thing for you. You kind of mentioned maybe they ease Highsmith back into things, and that might be an easy way to make the decision for us, in terms of Herbig versus Highsmith, Highsmith versus Herbig. But do you see any way that maybe all three of the outside linebackers are on the field together? Or I just can't get over having Herbig on the bench. I mean, it's no knock on anybody else, but he just blows me away every time he's out there, and I think he needs to play a lot.
I think they want him to play a lot too,
Yeah.
and yes, I do think there are going to be times in which you do see all three on the field.
Good.
But I think the biggest thing now, I don't think that that's going to be like 90% of the time. That's going to be what they do, because that means you're leaving Peyton Wilson on the sideline sometimes, and Peyton Wilson does some really. I mean, shoot, that they don't stop Jordan Addison on that blown coverage without Peyton Wilson running a ridiculous speed and chasing him down. Peyton Wilson brings value. You're not going to take Patrick Queen off the field because he's the green dot guy, and when he's healthy, he's on the field every single snap.
This three outside linebacker thing's easier said than done, by the way.
Absolutely. It's not as simple as it sounds. Now, that being said, I think there's more value in having these guys rotate with each other than trying to just stuff them all on the field at the same time all the time. Because what you really have to think about here is, number one, these are three really good football players. I mean, T.J. Watt's a Defensive Player of the Year, should have won multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards. Nick Herbig is blossoming into a phenomenal edge rusher, and Alex Highsmith is a very, very, very good edge rusher, and any team would love to have him as like their complement to a star edge rusher. I mean, any team would have that. He would even be the best edge rusher on several teams in the league. So one way that you can utilize that is to keep them all fresh a little bit more and have one of those guys on the sideline. There will be times T.J. Watt is the guy who's on the sideline, because you don't want him going 90 to 95% of the snaps every single week. You need this guy fresh and healthy in December and January. Think about last year whenever he was playing banged up and he was not as effective. He just wasn't, and some people are like, where did T.J. Watt go? Well, he's playing at less than 100%, and maybe he stands a much better chance of being closer to 100% if you have a Nick Herbig who can step onto the field in his stead, and you don't have that big of a drop-off in production. Or when Alex Highsmith can step onto the field, and you can, keep Nick Herbig fresh, because Herbig hasn't been the most healthy guy over his 3 NFL seasons either. So keeping these guys healthy is paramount above everything else. But rotation is a good way to do that. But I do think you will see every now and then, maybe it's 5 or 6 times a game, in which you see all three guys on the field on the third down situation or any kind of a blitz situation in which they just send the house. They're going to put all their big guns out there, and they're just going to be like, okay, we're going to go get the quarterback right now.
Certainly a good problem to have, how to fit all those three into the defensive puzzle. Chris Halicke, great stuff from him. As always, make sure you're checking out all his work, DK Pittsburgh Sports. Chris, thank you for the time, buddy, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
There he goes. Chris Halicke, great stuff. And Yeah, that's just what I would like to see, Matt. A couple times a game. Make defenses. It's kind of one of those
5 or 6 snaps was exactly what I was going to say too.
One of those like we talk about outliers a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Make offenses, prepare for something that's a little bit of an outlier that you're going to throw at them a couple times a game situation.
Yep, and we can really talk about how you really would divvy out their snaps, but I do think he mentioned maybe Highsmith, you ease him in, coming off the injury. So this week it might be easier to build that puzzle than when they're all 100%, fighting for time. Alex, we only want you to play 20 snaps no matter what,
Right.
Even if Herbig didn't exist.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. So could all fall into place on Sunday. And hopefully you have those 3 healthy and rested and good to go for the rest of the season as well, too, certainly. Quarter poll thoughts and predictions and awards.
Who would be your
point?
Steeler Rookie of the Year?
Ooh.
I haven't given this any thought at all.
I think it's going to be Derek Harmon. But right now,
I don't think you could vote for him now.
Right now, I might say Y.A. Black.
It's not bad.
I mean,
it's definitely not Johnson.
It's not Johnson. Sawyer, we've seen some of, but I think Y.A. Black. And again, there's some of the exceeding expectations type thing where he has really put his hand in the pile earlier than I think we all thought.
Didn't have a second-round pick.
Didn't have a second-round pick. First-round pick was hurt. Third-round pick is barely played.
Right. I think it has to be Black.
Got to be Y.A. Black at this point.
Yeah.
Now, a month from now, we might be saying it's Derek Harmon.
Monday, we might say it's Harmon. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. It might be enough. Be like, I've seen a couple games from him. He's the best guy.
Offensive Rookie of the Year? Can we even pick one?
Or
you're just going Rookie of the Year in general?
I
for
just
the
picked
Steelers.
Steeler Rookie. Yeah. I
forget
what that award's called. It's
the Mean Joe Green Performance Award.
Yeah.
Which of course Zach Frazier won this past season. Steelers MVP, Aaron Rodgers. Tell you what, though, I think the last couple games, T.J. Watt's making a case, certainly.
Cam Hayward ain't dead yet.
Hayward not dead yet. But I think it's got to be Aaron Rodgers at this point.
I would say.
Newcomer of the year, DK Metcalf.
Okay.
Maybe Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
But their pass game would really be struggling without DK Metcalf.
Yeah. Not getting as many targets as you think, though.
No.
That's one of my Matt stats this week is he's averaging like 5.5 targets a game, which is like 43rd amongst wide receivers.
We need to get that up.
Yeah, so that needs to go.
We need to get that up. We need to get that up into the top 25. To the phone lines we go. It's time to talk to our buddy Chris Adamski. He, of course, the co-host of the Steelers Blitz with Tom Opperman right here on the Steelers Audio Network, Steelers Nation Radio. He covers the Steelers for the Trib. Make sure you're checking out all of his work there. Buzz, thank you for taking the time. Let's get right into it. Matt and I kind of did some quarter poll conversation today, going across all the divisions and picking division winners and wild cards here going forward. We both picked the Steelers to win the AFC North. Can you remember a time for Pittsburgh that they were in such a good position in October? And is there even if Baltimore loses this weekend and falls to 1-5, you might not even have the boogeyman to look at over your shoulder. It seems like they are in such a great position for this early in the season.
And they have it right in front of them here in a 5-day span coming up to really just put their heel in the throat of the entire division. If you beat both the Ohio teams here in less than a week, which obviously isn't assured or anything like that. And it's I wonder if one of those years, maybe in the early aughts or whatever, whenever the Bengals were still a dumpster fire in the Browns with the Browns. If there might have been a year or two where the Steelers were at their peak there, maybe I guess that'd be before Ben, so maybe not. One of those years where you think that they just happen to have a lead, but it just seems like even if you believe in the Bengals and Ravens for differing reasons, as if you believe in them as being legit contenders before, it just seems like there's a malaise around both of them for different reasons. I know that Jake Browning era is mercifully over for not only for the Bengals and their fans, but anybody who watched the game at some point. That Monday night game, and every time the Bengals are on, it's just painful to watch right now, right? And they went from arguably one of the most fun teams. They probably were the funnest team to watch, if that's something you could say, or even a word, funnest, last season when they were, scoring a lot of points, getting up a lot of points, to being the most excruciating offense to watch. I feel like they're pulling teeth. So They can't get any worse under their new quarterback. But, yeah, it's wild how you're sitting here, especially for a team that I'm guessing the betting markets had the Steelers third to start the season, and the third pick in the division, and to be in this, appearance of such a good spot here before they even play a game in October.
No doubt. So let's switch things just to the Steelers. We got some injury news, some good, some bad. It looks like Warren's likely to be back. Do you think he goes back to being almost the entire workload and Gainwell's a spot player, or does that load become more 50-50 with as well as Gainwell played, or might Caleb Johnson ever see the field? How do you think the division of labor at running back is going to go?
Well, I keep getting asked that, and I always say, remember week one, Gainwell outsnapped for it. He didn't get more touches, and that was before Gainwell's breakout, and he could show it. And that was presumably everybody's healthy, and they could say they were behind a lot of that game, and maybe that's more, Gainwell snap friendly or whatever. But I don't know if 50-50 is the right way to put it, but it seems clear that these coaches like Gainwell. They went out and signed Gainwell as an organization, and where up at camp they gave him a lot of looks in a lot of different ways. And like I said, week one he played a lot. They made him clearly way over Caleb Johnson during the game that Warren wasn't available. So Gainwell is part of this offense. He's a significant part of the offense no matter who's healthy. And, if the game's a quote-unquote normal game where it's always within a score or whatever it is, then I don't know how exactly that plays out. I would imagine Warren will still get more carries and probably just more touches by that alone. But, we're talking probably a 60-40 type, snap share and then things is what I envision here going forward.
Chris, what's your thoughts on the offensive line here coming out of the bye week? I think that there has certainly been progress, but that there's certainly still more to be desired there. A little bit better in the run game. Still feels like they're a little hesitant to, put Aaron Rodgers back there and let him stand in the pocket and throw downfield. Maybe some pass protection concerns. Are they trending in the right direction, or has the progress still been a little slower than you'd like?
Well, a couple of things. One thing I thought at the end of that Vikings game, that was as demonstrative or as emotional. Yeah. I don't know at the offensive line in a long time, a Steelers offensive line. I tried to ask, is that, did the Vikings, were they talking a lot? They were talking a little more than usual, let's say. And today, Broderick was asked a little bit about that. He essentially said it was just that, maybe it's Mason McCormick. They all run together right now at the moment. But somebody said, well, it was just essentially that we had it was a run game in the second half there. So we were really feeling our oats, we're able to be the aggressor and everything. And that was part of it, the winning game. It's probably just emotion winning a game across the continent. But I do think by any reasonable objective or subjective measure, that was their best game of the season as offensive line. And maybe they are kind of feeling themselves come together. And the way I characterize, I guess if you asked me or the offensive line, if we were talking in June or March or August or even September 6th, and you showed me film of week 4, I'd be like, okay, well that's all right, that's good. I guess I'd be satisfied. But it just feels so much better than that because of what happened in week 1 and 2, right? I feel like the arrow is definitely pointing up, and I think all 4 weeks I feel like the offensive line has gotten incrementally better. And, is that sustainable for 17 games? I don't know, to keep getting incrementally better or have your best performances. But you're obviously rather have it this way than the other way, right? So, especially considering 4 of the 5 are so young and relatively young, 3 of the 5 for sure, had fewer than 20 games in NFL experience. So to have that and to be able to point to that and say that I think there's reason to be hopeful and optimistic about the offensive line going forward based off where they were the last game and where the kind of the trend's been for the season so far.
How much of the 6-0 line package do you think you'll see going forward?
Mike Tomlin certainly didn't. I don't know. It's almost like was he playing his hand too hard, where he's like selling his bluff too much, or he's like, hey, tell me play a 3-4 team or 4-3 team, we're going to be in this jumbo because we can't possibly have a a regular tight end block, a 4-3 end, is the way he kind of put it out there. So part of me thinks he oversold it, where it's like, maybe we won't see it all now that he started acting like we're just stealing time. But I mean, you can't argue with the results from Dublin, right? I mean, they went with it, and I don't know how much they were planning on going with it exactly, but and then when you factor in the fact that Darnell's makes it essentially 7 offensive linemen on every play, I mean, let's face it, he was able to obviously go on routes and things. It's not the exact thing of an offensive lineman, but he certainly is the size of an offensive lineman. And the fact they had their best running game effort of the season and everything. I mean, obviously, I think you have to find a way to keep defenses honest, whether that is some routes from Darnell or whether it's, take some shots or something, because, I mean, you keep – obviously – defensive coordinator is going to punch back if you keep showing the same thing in the same big package. They're not dummies, right? They're going to find ways to counteract that with their personnel and their scheme and everything. So, but I mean, it worked out well in week 4, and that was the most recent game, and it's pretty obvious in terms of where the run game went from where it was early in the season that you'd be kind of dumb not to keep at least rolling out there some, right?
Yeah, I completely agree, and especially against a defense that is stout against the run and as good of a defensive front as the Cleveland Browns are.
I think you might use it this year or this week to pass protect. Just put them on Garrett's side.
Absolutely. Maybe hit DK Metcalf or target DK Metcalf downfield. We've kind of one of those other elements of this offense that we've all been waiting to see. It is Chris Adamski with us here on The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Buzz, you mentioned Warren a little bit, but sounds like good news for Joey Porter Jr. and Alex Highsmith as well. I think obviously the Steelers secondary can use reinforcements. We know Jalen Ramsey dealing with an injury now. I think we also saw how important it was getting Deshaun Elliott back in that win against the Vikings in Dublin. And then for Alex Highsmith, I mean, the way you have TJ Watt and Herbig playing right now, you put a Highsmith back into that mix. It feels like the right time here when you're heading into a stretch where you can really separate in the division to be getting healthier on the defensive side of the ball.
I think it's good with the emergence or sort of more emergence, I guess. There's how do you put it in a Herbig that you're able to, with a guy coming off a high ankle, to kind of limit his pitch count here, his snap count. In the first game, you get 2 games in 5 days, coming right off an injury of missing a month. I think in that sense you can definitely ease him back in that sense. And, yeah, I get fairly confident for sure, even more confident that Joey Porter is going to play. That sounds like that's all sealed with all the little caveat that anytime the soft tissue, I guess something could flare up before Sunday or one way or another. But I wonder if, into a sense, they would never say it or admit to it if they did it, but having the Thursday night game after, I wonder if you approach a Ramsey and an Austin a little bit different the way you practice them this week than you would if you had consecutive Sunday games, where it's almost as if you're maybe get them out there in the practice field a little bit this week, because you only got one time to do that between this game and your next game, and it gives you an idea, maybe allows them to ramp up a little bit to kind of see where they're at before you have to make a decision based off of just a couple hours of data practice. Whenever on a short week like that, it's going to be a real light practice anyway on Tuesday leading into the next game. I think that might be part of seeing Austin and Ramsey out there. Maybe it'll surprise me. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm talking, who knows? Maybe they'll be out there Sunday, but definitely don't get the impression that's the case. And I wonder if having those 2 games back, because the school of thought was, well, if they missed the first game after the bye, they're going to miss 2 games because that's the next game's coming so quick.
Sure.
But maybe they're already kind of thinking ahead in that way, and why those guys will be practicing here later in the week.
If Austin's a no-go, do you think there's a direct replacement for him for wide receiver 2? Is it Scotty Miller just assumes it, or is it a group project? Do we see more Skoranek? Would Wilson potentially be out there in 2 receiver sets more than he has been? What do you think?
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, does it play into? I guess that kind of goes back to a little bit to the big personnel, and Skoranek would be a guy that's out there a lot in that scenario. If that's either working or part of your game plan, he's obviously a guy they've leaned on and known for his blocking and everything in the run game. And if that's part of your game, I mean, the Browns are good against the run. The Browns defense is good in a lot of ways, so I don't know how exactly you want to try to attack them, but I would think if I would wager right now, I think Scotty Miller would probably get the most snaps, and especially maybe if they're behind or something, or if they need to throw. I think he's probably at this point they're most comfortable with him as a pass game option. Man, it's like again, I'm sure they would never do this, and they have a game to win, and that's going to be the focus. But at some point, you got to find out what you got in Rowan Wilson, right? I mean,
sure.
Austin's a free agent coming up, and I know you don't look forward to 2026, and there's a lot more pressing needs in the moment, but this is a perfect opportunity to at least get him on the field and try something. At least you have some on-field data points during regular season games to say, okay, there's some promise here. Okay, you know what? This we got to move on, and we got to, he's never going to be a top 2 or whatever, top 3 receiver for us, because at some point you just need to know, right? I mean, it's kind of like it's the mini version of, the Browns need to see what their quarterbacks are. It's something like that where, and you have an opportunity now if Austin doesn't play to at least get him out there for some reps. But like I said, if the game plan is going to be heavy, then it'll be Skoranek, and I think that at this point they believe that Miller's their best, receiving option, in terms of receiving production at that position.
Buzz, last one we've got for you. In the first hour of the show, we debated the Steelers MVP, team MVP so far to this, early on here in this season. If you had to give the award today for Steelers team MVP, who would it go to?
It's crazy because you obviously always default to the quarterback.
Sure.
Yeah, we kind of did.
I mean, so it's like, but it's weird because the Steelers, the official team MVP, as voted by their players, has trended away from the quarterback for decades. And whether that's intentional, whether I don't know how to read that. I don't never knew what was that.
Yeah, Ben didn't win it nearly as many times as you would think.
Yeah. Like I'm pretty certain by now TJ has more than Ben ever got in his career. I think, and it's just, but at the same time, it's like, Rodgers, there's between the clutch moments and just sort of just with this offense, and we've talked about limitations in the early, especially in the first couple of games of offensive line and the running game, and even wide receiver depth and the production they're getting out of the tight ends for the quarterback to, be up there in the league leading touchdown passes, and it's kind of hard to go away from a quarterback. And I mean, defensively, it's like there's a lot of guys that have been up there. I don't know. Like Ramsey kind of sticks out to me. He's made a couple splash plays.
Sure.
Like, was he your best defensive player? Like, I wouldn't have a problem if you said that. But
Cam Hayward's coming on strong. TJ's coming on strong. Right?
Yeah, last couple of weeks. Like, I don't want to say. I guess this is looking at a negative point. Like, who's had the best? 4 games. Who's stood out for 4 games in a row? But it's going to be that the defense, especially in terms of. Especially the splash plays and stuff. I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not saying he's MVP, but Deshaun Elliott, they missed. You saw how much you missed him when he was out. And he came back and started making plays again. And so there's I feel like I want to look at it as a positive that there's been a lot of guys on defense that have made plays and everything, and no one's really stood out. So I guess you got to default back to the quarterback then and go with Aaron.
It's maybe a low-hanging fruit answer, but certainly one that has plenty of merit. Chris Adamski, make sure you're listening to him and Tom Opferman on the Blitz every single day, checking out all his work in the Trib. Buzz, thanks for the time as always, man, and we will see you on Sunday.
All right. Enjoy talking to you guys. See you then.
There he goes, Chris Adamski. Great stuff from him. You ready to jump into some Matt's stats for this week?
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of the packet this week as always, and a lot of good nuggets in there.
I love it. If you're watching on YouTube, I got the packet here in my hands. I've got some things highlighted on this packet
all right.
as well, too.
It's not yet on Steelers.com. I just looked while I was getting coffee, but it usually is about this time. So if people want to find it,
The cheat sheet will be up soon on Steelers.com. Until then, we will run through some of these numbers for you. Let's talk a little bit about this Steelers offense here.
Okay.
Pittsburgh producing 14.8 points in the first half of games. That's 5th most in the NFL.
Yeah. How much time do we spend in the offseason? Slow starts.
First quarter differential was the worst in the league.
Right.
Cleveland producing just 6 points in the first half. That's dead last in the NFL. Now, though, kind of tale of a different story in the second half. In the second half, the Steelers producing just 9.3 points per second half. That's 25th out of 32 teams in the league. The Browns, right on their heels in 26th, producing 8.6.
Real quick on the Browns,
yeah.
they're just bad all game.
They're just bad all game.
Right? Yeah, I don't think there's any trend with them. They're just bad all game.
But here's the real kicker. The Browns giving up 13.8 points in the second half. That's 25th in the NFL.
Right.
So a Browns defense that is certainly one of the best in the league, but maybe not quite as stout in the second half of games as they are in the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, and as I'm sitting here wondering, well, why? I mean, that's obviously what we want to talk about. Stats are great, but let's figure out why.
Is it just because they're getting worn down and they can only do so much and they can only hold that dam off for so long before it breaks?
I think so, but they're much better in time of possession than the Steelers. They're at least over the average. They're at 31 minutes and change, so they're above average. Obviously, average would be 30 across the league. That being said, it has to wear on you when the offense is that bad.
Has to.
You know, I mean, like, you can't be as good at the end of the games as you are at the beginning. Just watching the offense turn the ball over, 3 and out, punt, blah, 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 blah. I would think that there's something to that. Now, as much as I like the Browns defense, too, it's not real diverse schematically. You know, I mean, like, it's a lot of single high.
It's a
lot of man.
Yeah.
They prefer to play with heavier personnel. They want to be in their base 4-3 as much as possible, all things up to them. They don't play with lighter boxes. They're going to dedicate themselves to playing the run, and they test their corners and trust their pass rush. So maybe you start to get a little bit more of a beat on it. You see the same thing over and over.
Sure.
You might get a little better at it against it as the game goes on. Do you have any theories on the Steelers' offense, why it goes backwards? I love that it's starting fast. That was the thing we complained about, was the slow start. My thoughts are you're not establishing the run.
That's exactly what I was going to go. I don't want to say it's smoke and mirrors in the first half.
No.
But I think in the first half, teams are just more honest about defending you and all the options are on the board. Whereas after 30 minutes, you're not running the ball, and Aaron Rodgers is kind of having success dinking and dunking you and kind of paper cutting you a little bit down the field. It's like, hey, we got to take that away and make these guys run the football a little bit. I mean, that feels like the only logical answer at this point.
Me too. I mean, because they have had some stalls. I mean, there was a stretch there where what was it, 3 and out like 3 times in a row.
Or the Patriots game, it was 6 possessions that were either 3 and out or the straight possessions that were either 3 and out or the interception to Bobby Spillane.
Yeah. So, I mean, and of course, all these stats, if you only play 4 games, if one's bad, it's going to weigh you down a lot. Totally. Of course, small sample size. We know that.
We're still, the sample size is legit now, but there's still some grain of salt elements there for the next couple weeks.
And if you go through this whole packet, I still think you get a really good understanding of how teams want to play, what they're doing well, all those type of things. You really get a feel for the teams through the numbers. But I was a little shocked that they were as good as they were in the first half. If we want to stress the positive, it's like,
that's great.
I know they've had good first drives, especially compared to other years, but I didn't think they'd be near the top in terms of scoring in the first half. And again, the Browns scoring is just they're bad all the time.
Yeah,
they're just not good at football, right?
And that's huge for the Steelers defense too.
Yes.
You have laid this out many times. Like, it's been very rare in TJ Watt's career, to use him as an example, that, it's the 3rd and 4th quarter and the Steelers are up 7 or up 9 or up 10 and Renegades blaring and the terrible towels and everyone knows I'm pinning my ears back and I'm going to get in the quarterback.
Yeah. It hasn't happened much in his career at all.
It hasn't.
No.
There's been more of that
his
this
credit
season.
hasn't happened to Myles Garrett at all.
It has not happened to Myles Garrett.
Most pass rushers get those benefits.
And maybe that one year that they had with Baker Mayfield, when they went to the playoffs and beat the Steelers in that weird kind of COVID wild card game with only like 7,000 people in the stands. I think that's a big part of why we've seen the Steelers defense. Hey, first couple weeks weren't great, but they stabilized very quickly. And I think that's been a huge part of it. It's much easier for the Steelers defense to operate with that lead in the way that they want to play and turning guys like TJ and Herbig loose.
And we saw a little bit of it in Dublin.
And we saw a little bit of that in Dublin.
Not a lot, yeah.
But hopefully that continues. That, to me, this is hello, Captain Obvious, no kidding. But the start in this one feels very important. Not only for just knocking Cleveland down and their morale and kind of oh no, here we go again, but just for what it would mean for their defense and for the Steelers' defense if the Steelers were able to get an early lead.
1,000%. Because the Browns also want to run the ball. And if you could get them out of their comfort zone, hand it to Judkins over and over.
Make Gabriel have to make some plays and make some throws.
And have those tackles protect and, renegade. And, we've talked, we know where we're going with that.
There's a clear script, I think, without a doubt. Steelers offense, Browns defense, because I think that's where a lot of the meat of this matchup is.
The Browns defense is a lot better than their offense.
A very good Browns defense against, I think, a Steelers offense that is coming off of one of their most encouraging performance since the opener against the Jets.
Yes.
I think, certainly. So let's talk about this. Steelers using play action 13% of the time. Only the Falcons, Jets, Eagles, and Bucks use it less. This is another thing we spent a lot of time talking about at the start of the season. Still very low play action numbers for the Steelers.
Yeah. And I'd like to get to the bottom of it more because week 1 against the Jets, it was very high. I want to say it was like 39%. Because I remember in Matt's stats for week 2,
it was in the 30s.
I was citing things along the lines of that's the most play action Aaron Rodgers has used in a decade or something crazy like that. Because he is not big on play action over the course of his career. He doesn't love it. But it worked really well. They put up a ton of points against the Jets. He was highly successful with play action. And I wonder, they've clearly gotten away from it. Is it his uncomfortableness with it? I bet not. I bet. All right, let me do this. If we operate
Peeling
under
back the curtain a little bit here.
Yeah. And again, I don't know this, and I don't know that I even believe it. But if they believe it, it's all that matters.
Correct.
If they're super worried about their pass protection, it just explains a lot of how they play offense. All the short passing, lack of shots.
Well said.
Lack of play action,
That's
which takes longer.
You'd love to give Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith some truth serum and get their honest answer on that.
And I think the best analyst, and I think I'm pretty decent at this, can read the tea leaves of why teams do things. Dale and I talked about this for years.
Especially after 4 games, too.
Right. That there's a couple times during the years that during the year the teams don't lie to you or to anyone. The draft, they're going to pick the player they want. They're not trying to throw a smoke screen and take the guy that they don't like.
Unless it's the Browns and they pass on Richard Seymour for one of their buddies from the U.
Free agency, hires and fires, where they spend their money. What people tell you at the podium is sometimes true, sometimes isn't. Sometimes you got to read the tea leaves for all teams. But what I love about offseason acquisitions is no one lies, or
Absolutely.
a trade or whatever.
Absolutely.
Other reasons or the other things you have to decipher or, get the decoder ring out and figure it out. But it seems kind of apparent that they don't trust their pass protection, or a lot of these things wouldn't be the derivative of it.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think you can kind of combine that with the fact of worried about the pass protection and worried about the exposure, the hits for 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I think it all goes hand in hand.
If you've got 27-year-old Ben
Sure.
or 27-year-old Aaron, you're more likely to let him sit back there and still take some of those shots, even in the face of some protection concerns.
For 2 reasons.
But not
First
when
of
it's
all, you're in
41-year-old
better
Aaron.
shape and you're less likely for injury. The older you get, the more brittle you get. Anyone that has kids, you guys both had young kids, they can fall down the steps, they don't even know it. You can bounce them like basketballs, they don't even know it.
They my daughters fall off their bike, and I'm like, ooh. And
it hurts me for a week to watch that.
I got a little. Give me a Band-Aid down.
Right, they might cry for a minute, but they're fine. Where I'd be weeping like an old man. And they just don't protect themselves in the pocket as well either. They don't elude the they're not as mobile.
Sure,
right.
Sure.
So I think that's part of it. But I think if you look at the roots, I don't know that they trust their protection.
And again, if it was one game against Seattle that they didn't trust their protection and that defensive front, okay, fine. But it's
a theme.
4 games against 4 different opponents, and it is now certainly a theme.
The play calling and way they've played offense implies strongly that they don't trust their protection.
And Matt, another one
but
of your.
When do you learn to trust it? You can't live that way forever either.
You cannot. You absolutely cannot. And this kind of paints that picture as well, too. A great stat by you. Air yards per attempt in the NFL so far this season.
Yeah.
The Steelers are dead last at 4.7 yards.
Now, I don't like saying last. They're lowest.
Lowest.
Because the ones that's highest doesn't mean that they're hitting 80-yard bombs left and right.
Great
you're
point.
Chucking and ducking, right.
Lowest air yards per attempt on average at 4.7 yards. They're the only team in the NFL.
But I put the other ones that are close on purpose.
And they're not really that close.
That's why I put them in there.
The Cardinals at 31 are 5.9, a full yard higher.
So much more, right. And they're 31.
The Steelers are the only team under 5 yards. The Cardinals are the only team under 6 yards.
Yeah.
So, the Steelers at 4.7 yards, air yards per attempt at 32nd in the league. The Patriots, who are at 28th, are 6.9.
That's a massive difference.
Full 2-yard difference.
Massive difference.
And that's only 4 spots ahead in the pecking order.
Exactly.
That, to me, is, again, you read the tea leaves, you look at the numbers, and you cannot deny some things.
Yes, these are strong trends. They're not even trends. These are facts.
Facts.
These are what you are right now.
That number, to me, aids in painting that picture that you were just breaking down for us.
And it's a little too extreme. Like I said, it's not last. And it isn't last. It's the lowest. But I'm not saying it's good either. You don't want to be that extreme, and again, they're really good after the catch. Rodgers is great in the quick game, all those things. But I think you're going to have to push the ball down the field at some point. I don't think you can live that way for 17-plus games.
Absolutely.
No chance.
And maybe this is not the Sunday that we start to see it.
I don't know.
Against this Browns defense.
Yeah. Maybe the Bengals are throwing it 20 yards left and right. I don't know.
But at some point, you're going to have to stretch the field. Yeah. You're going to have to push that thing downfield.
We have enough data that tells us a lot of things about the passing game. Yeah.
Yes. Here's some good news.
And real quick, that's why I tweeted it that way, as opposed to saying Steelers are lowest in the league. Well, look at the ones right behind them, too. They're not even close.
Not even close.
Right.
I'm really glad you included the others there because that paints the picture of how conservative it's been.
Because there are some stats where, the Steelers are 29th in the league at this. But they're really not that much different from the 22nd team or the 18th team.
You need that full scope.
Right.
Matt, last one here before we go to break and get into some more of these. The good news is the Steelers have been very good, very efficient in the red zone on offense. 69.2% of the time scoring a touchdown, which is 8th best in the NFL. Cleveland, for their offensive struggles, they're 10th best in the NFL, not too far behind the Steelers at 66.7%. Here's the kicker, though. The Browns' defense, dead last in the red zone.
Yeah.
78.6% of the times allowing a touchdown when teams get down into the red zone. How's that work for me, that this defense has been so good, so stingy, but they're really bad in the red zone?
I don't have an answer why. I would have to watch every red zone snap, and maybe there's only 8 of them. There
could just be a small sample size.
There's more than 8, but maybe there's only 8 drives or something. There's definitely small sample size because they are good on defense. A lot of times teams will go to more man in that situation, and they're a good man coverage team. They rush the passer. They're the best run defense in the league. But there's 2 things, actually, and Tom Offerman and I have been talking about the last 2 days because I do 2 shows. I do a Wednesday show with him and Tim, and we do a Tuesday podcast, too. You can find it on Steelers.com. And there's as good as this defense is, there's 2 things that they're at the bottom of the league in. Red zone defense, which the Steelers' red zone offense is great. That's not a good thing. That's a bad matchup for the Browns for sure. No, that's not something you want to be weak in this game for. And their short pass defense is really bad. Well, we just talked this to no end. Right. So the more I think about this week, I love that the Steelers ran the ball in Dublin. Great. Run the ball. They might just think and dunk like crazy and just not try to run the ball against the best run defense.
Aaron Rodgers passes, and 30 of them are within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage.
And they're all super short. And maybe they do max protect and throw some bombs on top of it. I think that should be in the cards, especially against single high safety you're going to get.
At least certainly some intermediate routes, too.
And the Browns don't like light boxes. That's another thing I tweeted out, too. So you should have a lot of bodies near the line of scrimmage. So I think this is a good time to take shots and maybe you bring Anderson in not to mash their face, but to help protect,
Yeah.
So, but if they don't run the ball well this week, it might be not by design, but it might be that's not the priority.
This is not where we're going to make hay this week.
I know it's the smartest move.
Yeah.
Right.
No, and
their short passing is not great. Rodgers is killing it,
That makes a lot of sense. And especially now, again, 4 games into this for the Steelers, 5 games into this for the Browns, those trends are like fact. And,
yeah.
And I think what you do well at this point. You know what they do well and where they struggle. And you love it when those kind of blend together in what will hopefully be a successful passing attack and hopefully some red zone success for the Steelers offense on Sunday. Let's continue rolling.
Yeah, we're going to go.
Some of these. I wanted to go big picture here to start with this one because we have talked a lot of the AFC North and the outlook and the good position that the Steelers are in at this point. Steelers are 3-1. If they move to 4-1 with a win on Sunday, 79% of the time, teams that start 4-1 go to the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a pretty strong indicator.
Pretty good.
Right,
Four
right.
out of 5 times, basically,
Right.
if you hit 80% there almost.
Now, that's from year 2000. This comes straight from the league. This is some of the stuff Lab sends us. Comes straight from the league. It's from the year 2000. I'm sure it's altered a little now that 7 teams go as opposed to 6 the whole time. So it's probably even
Extra
higher.
game now for a few years, too.
Yeah, so there's 17 game schedule and 7 teams go. So it's actually probably higher than that.
Probably more like 82, 83,
Right.
84%, something like that. That's a great point by you. This is, though, kind of the razor margins that Labs was referencing. If the Steelers were to fall to 3-2,
which doesn't seem that bad. You're still a winning record, right?
50% of the time, 3-2 teams make the playoffs. So you're a coin flip.
Yeah.
You are a proverbial coin flip. A crazy stat that you have in here in this packet this week. Cleveland has led on the scoreboard this season for only 6% of their offensive plays. Only the Tennessee Titans are lower.
It's hard to believe.
It's very hard.
6%. And somebody's lower. I mean, that's how bad the Titans are bad. Right.
But I guess that Green Bay win, they weren't in the lead till the very last play, right?
Right.
Where they kicked that field goal to win.
I think they never led on the scoreboard in regulation. Right. It was zeros when they were right.
Correct. Because it was tied when they kicked that field goal. And so I guess that.
And I guess they didn't get the first score.
Right.
Right.
And that 6% I think was all from the Vikings game or maybe there was a brief period in the Bengals in the opener where they led.
One of those games
too,
they could have been up 7-0 for a minute, and then the next team goes on and scores.
I mean, you run 100 offensive plays, 6 of them you were in the lead for. 6%. That is wild.
That is wild, and it affects the play calling and everything, of course, too. It's like we're losing already, right?
And that I think plays into how the Browns' defense has been much better in the first half than the second half.
Yeah, I think that leads to it.
How long could you be the Hoover Dam and hold the water off before it busts forward?
Yeah.
It's human nature. It's only reasonable.
Like, I forget the number, but like the Ravens last year and especially the Eagles last year, their number was like 70%.
I'm sure.
Like they always have a lead. Barkley, Henry, coming at you like crazy in the second half. And you got to think a lot of the time for the first 3, 4, 5 minutes of the game, it's 0-0 if you don't score off the bat.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of them that are just a wash, or you get 3 points and I answer with 3 points.
Matt, you referenced time of possession earlier on.
Really worries me with this team.
Yeah, let's paint this picture and dig into this a little bit more. Steelers opponents through their 4 games have run 54 more offensive plays than the Steelers. Average of 11 more per game that the Steelers defense is on the field than their opposition.
It's going to wear on you.
It's going to wear on you.
Yep.
And you can draw a direct correlation to the Steelers' time of possession per game, which is an average of 26 minutes and 46 seconds. Third lowest in the league, only ahead of Cincinnati and Baltimore.
Yeah. The only way you can survive that way in the long term is to be like the most explosive team in the league. You're like, okay, I get the ball, you kick off to me, and I hit a 70-yarder, and I only eat up 18 seconds of play clock, but I scored 7 points. But that's not, that doesn't.
This was a big thing. You remember when it was at the same time that Chip Kelly was at Oregon and had them humming.
When they were playing like at light speed.
And one of the top 10 teams in the country.
Yeah.
And Rich Rodriguez was at WVU, his first stint, and top 10 team in the country. And those two teams were like such outliers because their time of possession for their offense was like 24, 25 minutes a game.
Because they played so fast.
Because they played so fast and were scoring so quick.
And 3 and outs hurt you bad, though.
But it was exactly right. 3 and outs, you're taking
I got
like
1 sip of Gatorade, like, dude.
And so a big part of that was like, these teams are finishing in the top 10 every year and they're winning double-digit games and they're having a ton of success. But if they want to win national championships, they can't have their defense on the field that often. There's a real kind of chicken or egg thing there.
Well, and as you know, especially at a huge school like Oregon, too, I'll just go, the second team dudes are also on scholarship. The third team dudes are also on scholarship. Your rosters are deeper. Your benches are better. You can handle it better.
Sure.
Right.
For sure. But that was one of the things that was like anytime Oregon would lose a game, it'd be like, well, that 24 minutes of possession is finally catching up with them.
Yeah.
And there was some truth to that, but it was also
And I'm sure the defense didn't love it.
No.
But at least the defense was playing with leads.
Some of those early, like, Chip Kelly, Mike Leach, Rich Rodriguez offenses, you could not have enjoyed being the defensive coordinator for those teams.
And when Kelly came to the Eagles, it didn't work.
At all.
You can't play that game in this league.
An absolute disaster.
Right.
I mean,
53-man rosters, and you have 2 injuries, and, right.
Despite their struggles on offense, the Browns actually 31 minutes and 7 seconds average time of possession.
Yeah.
Which isn't blow the doors off of you, but that's a slightly better than league average.
I think a lot of it's because their defense is really good. Yeah, I mean, they get off
the
field.
They get off the field a lot.
They make plays.
Yeah, they force 3-and-outs plenty of times.
And Judkins we haven't talked enough about Judkins. He's a really good player.
We're going to talk about him plenty tomorrow, for sure.
He's easily their best offensive player to me.
Yes.
And really, really impressive. Better than I thought he was at Ohio State, So they are built a little bit better to eat clock.
Moats and I would do this from time to time as well. You could steal any one player off the Browns and put him on the Steelers, and I'm going to say you can't say Myles Garrett because that's just a cheat code.
Okay.
Would it be Judkins at this point?
We haven't had this conversation. I think years ago you brought this up. I'm a sicko.
You are a sicko. That's why I love you, Matt Williamson.
I play this game in my own warped cranium.
Love it.
All the time. And sometimes, like when I can't sleep at night, I'll be like, all right, I'm doing the NFC West. And lay there.
You'd have been a really good Madden player.
Dude. Because I have rules in my head. And you're not allowed to take quarterback.
Too easy.
No matter what, you can't take a quarterback. Even if you're the Chiefs and you're Mahomes, But I only do it for the Steelers. But sometimes I even get crazy and be like, what if I'm the Bengals? I'll play the game. Because I already went through the league in the last month or whatever.
I love this.
What bear would I take if I'm the Bengals? Or what Bengal would I take if I'm the Bears? So you're not allowed to take a quarterback in my rules, in my little brain. And we can play this every week if you want.
Love it.
And you get the player as is, meaning age, contract,
everything involved.
Yeah,
you can't just say I want to add Myles Garrett to the team.
Okay. You might have to cut someone to do it, and cap space, and all these things too. And so I love that game. I play it in my own world.
I'm putting this on our weekly outline here, by the way, right now.
Should we do the Browns?
Heck yeah.
They're a bad team to pick from. I mean,
there's maybe an offensive lineman or two there that we wouldn't hate.
I don't like their line at all. It's too old.
Judkins. We're going to get him on his rookie deal for the next 4 years.
I'm not sure there's a team I would take a running back, though, because running backs I can get one in the second round. They got him in the second round. Like, often I'm going to take a left tackle or a wide receiver.
Totally.
Or a pass rusher.
If Joe Thomas was still on the Browns, this is the easiest conversation ever.
Of course. If I have to take an offensive player, though, it's probably Judkins, which is, frankly, a slap in the face to the Browns. Because not a slap to face to him. It's a compliment to him. He's really good. But he's also got off the field. I mean, we got to take the real thing, and I rarely play that game because he's not guilty of anything. I don't know the young man, but there could be a suspension looming. Like, this is public knowledge,
Yeah.
You're
frankly, not breaking any news,
The wide receiver, Bond, he turned himself in for stuff.
Yes.
That you can find anywhere. I mean, he's not a good guy. And you have to put those things into account. Now, of course, you take Garrett. We can do it minus a superstar too.
It's just more like the answer is Garrett. You'd find a way to fit him into your cap
trade
scheme
Highsmith
and all that stuff.
Whatever. Right. You find a way to make it work.
Exactly right.
You turn T.J. Watt or Garrett into a first-round pick or whatever. You just take him because he's awesome. But there's not many to pick from on this team.
Denzel Ward?
I mean, maybe, but I like the corners.
It's at a position of strength now. Like last year, that would have been
It's an easy one, right? Yeah. It's an easy one. I mean,
Would you go Mason Graham, Young?
If I liked him better, yes. Yeah. I just don't like him very much, and I would not have picked him at that pick.
I think he's okay,
and he's been better than I thought so far. But I don't think he fits a scheme, and I don't like him very much. I mean, I really like the off-the-ball linebacker, Schlesinger. I mean, like with this team, a rookie would go a long way because I got him cap controlled for a long time. But I don't think Steelers need a linebacker, a true linebacker. Yeah. You know what I mean? For the inaugural hour version of this is maybe the worst team we could pick.
It's one of the worst.
Right,
sure.
because there's lot
even
of
with
other
Cincinnati,
teams.
there's a couple superstars on
like
each
you
side
say
of the ball.
Chase.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you're
Chase,
right.
Chase,
Yeah,
easy
right. A
peasy.
lot of these teams, like
But if you
stud
take
receiver-
Chase out of the equation, I'll take T. Higgins. No
yeah,
problem.
right. But a lot of the teams, there's a fun discussion. Would you take Sauce Gardner or Garrett Wilson or
Totally.
Quinn and Williams
or
Membo or
Patriots would have been a fun one.
Right. I mean, we could even go back in time. We should have done the bye week. Maybe it is Judkins. I haven't done the Browns in my head for a while. I haven't had a hard time sleeping. Right.
Haven't had a hard time sleeping lately.
You put him next to Warren for 4 years, next couple of years or whatever. You're pretty happy
Nice
about
thunder
it.
and lightning combination there.
I wish there was a young O-lineman or a receiver I loved, but it wouldn't be Fannin. It wouldn't be Graham, I don't think. Maybe it's Graham, but this is maybe my last team to do this with. I mean, other than if Garrett's not allowed.
Yes.
And Garrett's not a need. Most teams I would not take an edge rusher.
Yes.
Correct.
Correct.
Right.
You also want to marry this with our biggest weaknesses.
Absolutely. And cap issues and youth and, you need another expensive 31-year or 29-and-a-half-year-old guy.
Right.
Well, if he's awesome, yes. But
if he's a world crusher.
You're right.
Yeah,
if he's a
certainly.
first ballot Hall of Famer, yes.
Certainly. Okay, getting back to this. That's fun. We'll continue to do it. Well, I think Judkins is my answer. We'll continue to do that.
I understand it.
Throughout the
people will like this game because I get real nerdy about it.
I believe it.
I used to let myself have the option of anyone on the roster not name a quarterback or their first-round pick next year. In this case, I would definitely take their first-round pick next year.
100%.
Like if you get any asset from the Browns,
that's a top five pick.
I went their first-round pick.
That's our quarterback right there, Matt. That's Dante Moore, Mendoza, or Lenoris Sellers.
It's whatever
We're
you
getting
want.
one
Right.
of those three with the Browns first
but
overall
that ends up
pick.
being too easy for some teams. You just take the pick.
Yeah, totally. A couple more things that kind of paint that picture.
I'm obviously a sicko, by the way.
You are.
Yeah.
That's why I love you. Browns running the third most plays per game in the NFL, little over 66 per game. Steelers fourth fewest at just under 54 plays per game.
Let me stop you super quick.
Yeah.
The Steelers play slow on purpose. That's a Rodgers thing. They go deep into the play clock.
Deep into the play clock. Likes to see what the defense is doing. Pay a little.
Which should help your time of possession, but doesn't help you run a lot of plays. Like fantasy people are so smart. Like you don't want fantasy dudes from offenses that don't run a lot of plays. Especially running backs and quarterbacks. But I wonder one thing I should look at, and maybe I will tonight. Do the Browns snap the ball quickly? I bet they do, especially when they're losing.
Sure.
Because you play faster.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a very good point by you.
And that data is out there now. Like, there's so many sickos out there. Right.
There's a lot of people that are making a living doing this, certainly. And for that, we are grateful.
Pace stats.
We are grateful for you and your kin, Matt Williamson. Games with the Cleveland Browns are averaging just 39.2 combined points scored. That's second fewest in the NFL. Just 536 combined yards. That's fewest in the league. That's what Matt.
And I put the average yards on there.
Yes,
it's way under
656.
I mean, think about that.
120 yards under.
Less than the average NFL game.
That to me, possessions, plays, opportunities are at a premium in this one for the Steelers.
1,000%. Right. There probably won't be points. There probably won't be a lot of yards. Yeah, I mean, I'm warning people like if they win this one in a low scoring game and
great, fine.
And on Monday, people are complaining, but they only had 210 yards of offense. That's how every Browns game goes.
Fine.
Right. That's playing your opponent.
You've only got so many at-bats against this team.
Yeah, right.
Hit some singles and drive in a couple runs and win a low-scoring game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how Browns games go.
That's exactly it. The Browns have blitzed on just 16% of early down dropbacks, lowest percentage in the league. Steelers 42.5% of the time, second highest percentage in the league. Only that sicko Brian Flores in Minnesota are higher.
I'm a little shocked the Steelers are that high.
Same.
And they bring a lot of six-man pressures as well.
Especially after being very low in that department last year.
Yes.
Like, this is a
I don't dislike
180.
it. I mean, this is something we talked about in the offseason a lot. I think it's because of the corners. When you only had one corner you trusted last year, you couldn't blitz as much because there was only Porter. Now you got 3 you trust or 4. Browns just don't need it. I mean, it's flat out done.
Period.
Yeah. And I know that people are critical of the Steelers of not being an execution-based offense, that they don't do a lot of different stuff. The Browns don't either. They play a lot of single high. They bring 4.
They're
and they're really good at it.
They're a pretty static team as well. Last ones for you, Matt. Some bigger picture stuff, just to kind of set the table, set the scene. Let's go to Mike Tomlin first. Two very good indicators for the Steelers in this game as it relates to Mike Tomlin's tenure. The first, Garrett Gabriel. That's a kid I went to high school with.
Yeah.
Dylan Gabriel became the 9th rookie quarterback to face Mike. Will become the 9th rookie quarterback to face Mike Tomlin in one of their first 2 career starts.
Yeah.
The other 8 have only won against Tomlin 2 times.
Yeah.
Good indicator there of Mike Tomlin
Sure.
against early rookie quarterbacks. He's had a ton of success against those guys in his career.
To be fair, I bet that's not just a Tomlin stat. I mean, how many rookie quarterbacks
Totally.
the first 2?
I bet you
First 2
most
starts.
good,
I mean, even the best
most
ones
successful
probably
coaches
didn't
in the
go
league.
2-0.
Right.
Right.
That's a great point, too.
Yeah.
That's why
It's tough to win your first start.
the Ben Roethlisbergers and the Jaden Daniels of the world that hit the ground running and win a ton of games when they're rookies
They're
are
rare.
so rare.
Yeah.
Last one for Tomlin.
But I know where you're going with this one. This is an accident to me.
This is his 19th season as the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. 14-4 in his previous 18 years coming off of a bye week.
Massive.
Fantastic.
It's phenomenal.
Fantastic.
And most times your opponent isn't coming from overseas on a road game.
With a rookie quarterback making his second ever start.
Exactly. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Lot to like in that regard. Finally, just to kind of paint the picture of how stinking good TJ Watt and Myles Garrett are.
They're pretty awesome.
They are
awesome
pretty outstanding.
Yeah.
This to me is like Crosby and Ovechkin get drafted into the same division and, are so much better than everybody else.
Reminds me of Ed Reed and Polamalu. They were 1
Ed
year
Reed
apart.
and Polamalu in the same
right,
division.
yeah.
Exactly right. Great example by you. TJ Watt and Myles Garrett, first and second, respectively, in sacks in the league since they entered it in 2017. 111 for TJ, 106.5 for Myles. No other player has more than 85 during that time.
Daniil Hunter, too. I mean, who's a really good player, too, but no one's even close.
That's just ridiculous.
It's
They're
not
even in
ridiculous,
the
right.
same, not even in the same breath, not even in the same vein. That to me paints the picture of just how good those two are. They both at times can kind of downplay the personal rivalry. I do think Myles has leaned into it a little bit more than TJ has, but that's also what happens when you're on
that's his personality,
and
too.
when you're on the losing side of those things. I think you want to puff your chest out a little bit more when it does go your way. But man, very fortunate to watch those two now for darn near a decade.
Pretty awesome, yeah.
Pace the league in that department, and again,
they're both awesome.
No one else.
They might go to the Hall of Fame together. Who knows? I mean,
that'd be something,
right?
If they retired at the same time and went into the Hall of Fame together. But those two, pretty stinking good at their craft. We all knew that, but especially when you consider, I mean, there's no one else even within 20 sacks of those two in that time period.
Right, just blowing everybody away.
That's insane.
And obviously, guys like Parsons came along later. They're not going to,
Sure.
But, if you just did the Parsons stretch, maybe it's close. But,
Sure. That's a good point by you. But yeah, there's, again, not many guys. He might be one of the very few that you can even kind of put in that same stratosphere.
No question.
In the time that they have been in the National Football League. When you hear that bounce on a Friday, you know what time it is. It's time to get our view from the sideline with the queen of the sideline, Missy Matthews, joining us now. Missy, thank you so much for the time. Plenty that we want to discuss with you. It is Steelers-Browns back home at Acrisure for the first time in what feels like forever. First AFC North clash of the season for the Steelers. And Missy, on Thursdays, Matt and I kind of dig into his numbers and his Matt stats, and he had laid out some TJ Watt and Myles Garrett stuff that was, I think shocking, but also not surprising at the same time. These two, since they were drafted, lead the league in sacks. I don't think that surprises anybody. But the next closest, Daniil Hunter, is over 20 sacks behind both of those guys.
Yeah,
It's crazy how much, drafted the same year and kind of opposite ends of the first round, in the same division, playing each other 2 times a year. I mean, TJ versus Myles, while they're never on the field at the same time, this is always a huge storyline, and I think rightfully so, anytime these two teams meet.
And Missy, you take it even further, you're on the field with these guys. Do you think they feel each other's presence in these games?
Oh, 1,000%.
Okay.
1,000%. I can tell you just from knowing Cam and TJ and hearing them talk on the bench, even, after the game, they pay attention to their sacks. I think it was even Cam was joking that Keanu Benton could have had more sacks, but TJ sometimes steals them, like they pay attention to those little things for sure. And it was funny, JJ Watt, obviously TJ's brother, was on Pat McAfee this week, and they were kind of like, so dude, like you're calling another Steelers game. That's kind of weird. And he's like, yeah, I it keeps happening. I think this is our third game with that crew. And he's like, I'm not going to lie, though, guys. Like, I literally get to watch TJ and Myles Garrett, like two premier guys, not go at it, but do what they do best on a field and talk about it. Like, how cool is that for me? And when he kind of said that, you're like, yeah, you know what? We are kind of spoiled. We see this usually twice a year, knock on wood, when both guys are healthy, mainly knocking on wood for TJ staying healthy. But I do love the comparison. Even when you go through the game notes from the Steelers that Michael from the Steelers PR team does, there's always the category for Browns week of like, TJ has 17 sacks against the Browns. Myles Garrett only has 13 against the Steelers. Like, I love that pettiness and just the comparison. And it is, people in Pittsburgh are Team TJ and everyone in Cleveland is Team Myles. And I get it.
So obviously Garrett is one of the big keys, but Missy, the two of us and Rob King do a video for Steelers.com every week previewing, some keys we have for the game. What's something else that stands out to you for the Steelers this week?
I mean, stopping the run for sure.
Yeah.
Because then I think it goes into making a rookie quarterback making his second NFL start very uncomfortable when you don't have that safety blanket, and it makes you one-dimensional, and it might make you make some really bad decisions for a team that loves to take the ball away. And hopefully for the Steelers' case, that's something that they're able to do. And I think, Derek Harmon is getting more comfortable the more and more he's playing. We saw him for the first time limited snaps in terms of the New England game. So things are starting to come together for the defense. Obviously, you would love to have your full complement, and they have yet to be able to do that. But you will have TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig, it sounds like, on the field at the same time for the first time this season. And that's good. We've seen them use the three outside linebackers before, but also to have the three of those guys to rotate through and to make the tackles for the Browns miserable, I'm all for it.
Maybe similar conversation, Missy. Feels like against a Browns defense that is very stout, very stingy, I think particularly in the run game. Feels like, coming off of the Steelers' most encouraging performance in that department, 99 yards, over 5 yards per carry for Kenneth Gainwell in Dublin against the Vikings. Now it sounds like Jaylen Warren is all in the clear and ready to go. This would be a big week for that run game to take another step forward and build off of their last performance.
Absolutely. It sure would. But at the same time, I am all for what I feel like Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers in this offense have done, which is very much so tailor their game plan to the opponent. And I think, it is a very good run defense, as you said. It's AFC North football. So it's like everybody wants to run the ball. Everybody wants to stop the run. We're all built the same, have the same mentality. I think that's why AFC North clashes are always so physical and crazy. But I do think that, especially with Jaylen Warren being full and back, I would love to see them run the ball against this defense, give them, some confidence. Like the O-line was feeling themselves in Dublin in that Vikings game, like you could see that the excitement on their faces, Mason McCormick and them were signaling first downs. They just had a little pep in their step. And offensive linemen love that. So that's something that would be good to see. But I also think, let's keep going with DK Metcalf, Jonnu Smith, and Pat Freiermuth, get them more involved. And it will be interesting to see what happens without Calvin Austin, because it doesn't appear like he's going to be ready to go.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Austin. How do you think they fill in for him? Do they just go directly to Miller? Do they try to boost up Wilson? I've been asking everyone we have on, and I just don't have a great solution.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I mean, my natural instinct is Scotty Miller.
Yeah.
And that's nothing against Roman Wilson, but like
that's kind of how it went in Dublin when he got hurt.
Yeah, he's been there, he's done that. I remember the last preseason game in Carolina, Scotty had one of those crazy games, and obviously he had to play because there was a number of guys not playing. But when I interviewed Aaron Rodgers in the second half, I asked him about Scotty, and he, just went off and was so complimentary about the type of player he is, the type of teammate he is. We all remember, how he was talking about in training camp, how he remembered that touchdown that he had when he was with the Bucs against the Packers in the NFC Championship when Tom Brady was there. It's just, the whole thing. And I do feel like Scotty Miller he's an Arthur Smith type of guy too. To me, that makes the most sense. But I also think you have these really big tight ends that can catch. So, yeah, I'm not sure of the solution, Matt. That actually might be the most interesting thing to see how that pans out on Sunday. Not that there's not a lot of things, but that is the one where you're kind of like, all right, Calvin really did, solidify that role and do some really great things in the first 4 games.
Steelers sideline reporter, queen, easy for me to say, queen of the sideline, Missy Matthews, with us here on the Drive on a Friday. Missy, you have obviously been with the team for a long time. You spend more time around the team and the facilities and the sidelines, all that, obviously, than the average person. I know it's not like you're in the meeting rooms or anything, but another number that Matt kind of brought to the forefront yesterday that, raised my eyebrows a little bit in a good way. This is Mike Tomlin's 19th year as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is just insane when you say it out loud. He is, in his previous 18 years, 14-4 off of the bye week. That
Stole my question. That's what I was about to ask her.
Great minds think alike. And it's, it's not that he's 4-1 off of a bye week. I mean, that is a large sample size at 14-4. Any peel behind the curtain of what is the secret sauce? How has he had so much success out of the bye week in his near 2 decades as the Steelers head coach?
Yeah, that's a great question too, because I told Pomp that he should have asked him that for his TV show this week, and he didn't. But it's okay. I will say too, it's a unique stat, as you said. It's a large sample size, but your bye week is different every year. You know what I mean? They've had early ones before, they've had late ones, middle. So it's there's not a consistent thing to it, but I do think he takes care of his players, of the guys. And it was, the players knew that if they got that win in Dublin against the Vikings, that they were not going to have a ton of practices leading in. And I think it is just the regiment that they always go through. They love a bonus Monday. They would rather give players off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, regroup, come back Monday instead of, maybe doing an extra day and having Monday off. They live and breathe by this routine. And it has been consistent, trust me, the entire time that I've covered the Steelers, which now feels like a really long time. I mean, other than, some changes to the strength and conditioning staffs in terms of those things. But man, I'm telling you, that schedule, we are wheels up the same time every week, as you guys know. If it's a West Coast trip, it's a 9 o'clock wheels up, it changes. I just think the consistency, and it's probably just how he's able to regroup them. And Broderick Jones, I was telling Max and Rob earlier, I was laughing when he said earlier this week that, when Mike Tomlin talks, it's it's your dad. So you stand up and you're at attention and you listen. And he does just have that commanding voice. It's even if he's down the hallway and I hear him, I am almost okay, what's happening? You're should I be listening? Should I not hear this? Because he doesn't have a whisper voice. He doesn't have a quiet voice. But it's something about, I think, keeping the routine and his way somehow of being the same person, no matter if it's after a loss, after a win, after an injury. It's very rarely will he let the personal emotions seep into the football side of him.
Last thing I got for you, Missy, is do you think the Spencer Anderson eligibility package is here to stay?
Well, I mean, I think it should, right?
I do too.
He's kind of like the new Zach Banner. And I think even, when Arthur Smith was talking about how the type of athlete he is, his basketball background and how that plays into it, like, you're like, okay, no, this absolutely makes sense. This wasn't just a one-off. Now, are they going to be able to do it all the time? Because, again, that's an extra body that's on the field that takes away from some of these other weapons you have. No, but it's kind of like one of those things, if it's not broke, you don't have to fix it. So in that Vikings game, it kept working. So why would you not continue doing it?
Sure.
So I think we're going to see it. It'll be interesting to see how much, as the games, we still have a long bit of the season left, which doesn't seem possible, but also very possible at the same time.
Just so you know, Missy, when Anderson and Mount Washington are out there together, Matt and I have dubbed it the corned beef package. All right, we brought that one home from Ireland, and you're welcome to tuck that in the back pocket for later use anytime you want. Missy, real quick before we let you go, we know now that Shedeur Sanders will be the Browns QB number 2 on Sunday at Acrisure Stadium. What should be the over-under the amount of times that they show him on the TV broadcast?
Yeah.
Like a dozen
Bring him up,
times,
right.
15 times, 20 times? How often is he going to be on TV?
Oh, I think if like the over-under's at like 8,
Okay.
maybe that would be like a fair prop bet type of deal.
Like twice a quarter. That sounds about right.
It goes
Yeah.
up if the Browns are losing significantly, though.
Yes.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. I mean, I think either way, whatever number you're going to set it at, I'm probably going to take the over. 'Cause it's going to be him warming up. It's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
For sure.
It
yeah.
certainly is. It certainly is. The great Missy Matthews, the queen of the sideline, kind enough to give us some of her time on Friday. Missy, great stuff. Thank you as always, and we will see you on Sunday.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
There she goes, Missy Matthews, with her unique view and perspective from the sideline there. And, I tell you, like one of the, I think, the more underrated, everyone, Tomlinisms, paint the barn red, cut your eyelids off, all these different things. Standard is the standard. One of, I think, the more underrated Mike Tomlinisms is the secret sauce is there is no secret sauce.
Yeah.
And so maybe
I like
that's
that.
there's not a secret sauce to being good out of the bye week. It's just doing what you do, staying regular, staying particular, not changing things up.
I think it's just having a great knowledge of your team, too. This team needs more rest. This team needs poked a little more. These rookies need to
or
play
sick
more.
'em,
Right, exactly.
Another
right.
Mike Tomlinism.
And we need to light a fire under Cam. We don't have to do anything with Cam. Like the guys have been around, Watt, et cetera, blah, blah, blah,
No doubt. The secret sauce is there is no secret sauce. Final segment of the Friday, final segment of the week. It is time to get into our Steelers picks and predictions. But Matt, before we do that, some pretty encouraging news on the Steelers injury front.
Yeah, I teased it earlier. Just my phone just happened to, something came across that Jalen Ramsey, full participant.
Jalen Ramsey, full practice participant today and is officially listed as questionable.
Okay.
Not out,
way better than I
not
expected.
Doubtful, way better
right.
than we expected. Now, Calvin Austin has been ruled out already. No practice for him this week.
Yeah.
I think that's what we expected.
Yes, I thought both would be today.
But good, encouraging news for Jalen Ramsey, and no designation for Jalen Warren or for Joey Porter or for Alex Highsmith.
Highsmith I didn't look at. Okay.
As well. Now, that doesn't mean he won't be on some type of a snap count, pitch count,
He's
potentially, but he's playing. Joey Porter Jr. playing. Jalen Warren playing. No Calvin Austin.
Austin's the only one we know is out, really.
Correct.
Okay.
And Ramsey is questionable. Other than that, everyone else's game status is clear, which is awesome to see. For the Browns, mostly good news for them as well, too. We talked about how Myles Garrett had been dealing with that ankle all week. He was a full participant today. Only one for Cleveland with an injury status, and he's ruled as out, is Mike Hall Jr., the defensive tackle.
Okay. Rotational guy, talented player, but they're okay there.
Like, as you mentioned, they got 5 or 6 guys in that defensive front. So for them, they're
in pretty good shape. Yeah.
I think one that they can stomach, certainly. So both teams, I think, in pretty good shape heading into this one. Matt, the Steelers at home for just the second time this season, a 6.5-point favorite in a game that only has an over-under of 38 points, by far the lowest over-under, the only one this week that is under 41.5 points. Steelers able to win by a touchdown or more at home?
6.5's a lot for that low of an over-under. I mean, it's hard to cover.
Yes.
With that big of a spread. I mean, the implied total
would be like 23-17 or something like that.
Yeah, what's the over-under again?
Right?
That math's always hard
No,
for me.
sorry, that would be way more. I'm off.
What's the over-under?
The over-under is 38.5.
38.5. If the Steelers win by 7, we should be able to figure this out.
We should. We're not very good at this. 21-14.
21-14
there you
is.
Go. Yeah.
That
kind
still
of
only
like
gets
your
us.
implied,
That
your
still only
implied
gets us
score.
to 35.
I guess it's a 35. Jeez. 20-17. No, but then it's got to be a 6.5. You got to be closer to.
We should just rewind this whole segment.
Rewind this whole segment.
Right.
TV strike this from the record. Matt, I'm going 23-16 Steelers is my prediction.
Okay.
So just a slight cover for the Browns at 6.5.
Which would be a.
And a 23-6. Wait, no, sorry.
That'd be 39 total.
That'd be a 7-point win for the Steelers.
I think you nailed it. Right.
I think I nailed it. Yeah!
Total
Should
accident.
have just gone with that at the first place.
That was a total accident by
Total
you, too.
accident.
Right. That's great.
23-16. Weird
so
one.
You're thinking just like Vegas.
I'm thinking just like Vegas, baby.
I have Steelers.
Learn to think as those around you.
There you learn.
What's the exact? Learn to think like those around you think?
Yeah.
Is that
That's
the Godfather one?
I'm going 17-13 Steelers.
Okay.
I think the spread's a little big for the Browns defense. But I hate, for a Browns perspective, that they're coming off the game that they were with a rookie quarterback on the road and all, Tomlin after a bye and, first game in a long time at Acrisure. Steeler Nation's going to be lubed up and Steeler pass rush. There's a lot of things to like. And frankly, it wouldn't blow me away if we come in here Monday and be like, Steelers won 23-10 and it really was never close in the second half.
Yeah.
They just controlled things. I could absolutely see that, and they beat the number. But I think it's a little high for their defense, considering how good the Browns defense is.
So you're going 17-13.
17-13
I'll go 23-16 Steelers. The real kicker of all this is what kind of shape are they in after a trip out of the country just on Sunday and then going back.
Mentally and physically and just emotionally. And,
You and I, Matt, now, we drank our fair share of Guinness and did our fair share of bopping around.
Right.
But we didn't play 60 minutes of football in Dublin, and it still was probably Wednesday or Thursday before we felt back to normal.
Yeah, and then they have to go on the road against a tough team.
So if it's Wednesday or Thursday before those guys are feeling normal, and then they got to get on a bus Saturday and go right back on the road. Like
we're trading making 2 trades throughout the week, and as always, there's stuff up in the air with the Browns. There's no stability.
It's like 1 a.m. Monday when you get home.
Yeah.
Your Monday shot.
Oh, yeah.
You spend just Tuesday and Wednesday trying to get back your rhythm back.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday, okay, maybe you get 1 day of normal practice where you feel like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Friday,
getting on a bus before you
Friday
know it.
walkthrough. Saturday, you're getting on a bus.
It's tough.
That's real tough.
Yeah.
That's real tough. And I think that will play out over the course of 60 minutes.
Fourth quarter might belong to the Steelers.
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think, listen, it rarely plays out. These AFC North games are so infrequently blowouts on either end. It doesn't matter who's playing who's good, who's bad. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Steelers were in the driver's seat in the fourth quarter and able to win a little comfortably. But I'm always in these matchups going to lean towards it'll be a little bit closer for comfort. But like you said, I think it could be one of those, even if the Steelers only win by a touchdown, where the result was never really in doubt.
Yeah, but I do think I'm not sold that the Steeler offense has everything figured out and the O-line's ready to start rolling people. I'm not there yet.
Neither am I. But hopefully, when we come in here on Monday, we'll be singing a different tune.
Could be.
Matt,
we picked them to win.
Enjoyed this week. It was a fun week.
Yeah, it was.
Good kind of getting back to our regular rhythm.
And then next week's not at all. Right, won't be at all the regular rhythm next week.
When the Steelers will be playing on a short week against Cincinnati. Hopefully, we'll be back Monday to recap a win over an Ohio team and then quickly turn the page to previewing another matchup against one of those teams from that stinking state of Ohio. But that will do it for us this week. Big thanks to Missy Matthews for joining us. Tyler V, Mr. TV, our YouTube producer, for making sure we look handsome on the videos. And to Swiss on Swiss himself, Matt Williamson. Matt Lebanon's finest. I mean, a lot of famous people out of Lebo High School, but in my book, Matt Williamson is number one, folks.
Over Crowley and shirtless.
Absolutely. And Joe Manganiello and Dave Filoni.
Oh, yeah.
And
Dave Filoni was a good street hockey goalie, man. We used to play
You've
together
told
all
me
the
that.
time. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Big Patrick Waugh guy. Mark Cuban's a pretty good one.
Mark Cuban. I knew there was I knew there was a big name that I was forgetting. Yeah, Mark Cuban. That guy's done all right for himself.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
I do always love it. Like every time you see Star Wars accounts, like on social media, when they post pictures of like the sets and stuff.
Okay.
There's always Dave Filoni in the background, like wearing a Penguins hat.
Nice.
A Penguins hoodie or something. Okay. I'm always like, yeah.
Yeah, we played a lot of street hockey together.
There's our Yinzer Prince doing the thing for Star Wars. That's awesome. You guys played some street hockey together. I love it.
Dude, he'd get dressed at home, hop out of the car, fully dressed in his goalie gear.
Just ready to go.
With his Patrick Waugh jersey on. Right.
Montreal Canadiens.
His brother would drive him, right, yeah.
Habs
he was the
jersey.
best goalie we played with, and he'd come out of the car ready. I mean, we'd all get dressed there.
Sure,
I mean, you'd bring your pads, right.
That is one of those goofy hockey things. Some of the kids don't like to get dressed in the locker room. They got to do it at home and then hop out of the car. And oh, that's great, though. Funny story.
You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the Black and Gold. Steelers Nation Radio.